Immortal Cultivation begins with time management. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyright or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 201. Sword Hunt. In the morning, Ling Yunpo got up from the bed, picked up the broom and went out to sweep the floor. The climate here in Shushan is pleasant, but in autumn and winter, when the cold wind from the north blows, the leaves will still fall down, which can be described as yellow flowers piled up all over the ground. To deal with the fallen leaves piled up on the ground, it is of course the easiest to use Taoism. There is only one reason why Ling Yunpo chose to clean up by himself: boredom. There is almost no entertainment in this world. There are no mobile phones, televisions and computers, nor the internet with information explosion. Even the storytelling and singing that the dignitaries love to listen to are not very good to Ling Yunpo. After all, he had seen the world before crossing over. What wonderful cultural works have he not seen? Only the gentle and lovely senior sister Nzisuam, who dotes on her shortcomings, is one of the few bright colors in life. Should I practice sword with senior sister later? Or drink? Just as he was thinking about it, he saw Kyonchinu flying down from a distance on a sword. "Junior brother Lin," she said with a smile, "the ancestor wants to see you." "The ancestor of the Yuan family wants to see me?" Ling Yunpo asked in surprise. "Don't be so surprised," Kyonchinu said strangely. "Didn't the ancestor tell you about the sword hunting operation?" "Indeed," Ling Yunpo explained, "I just didn't expect it to be so soon. I don't know how long it will take, so of course we have to start as soon as possible." Kyonchinu looked at the King Luo Peak Taoist temple behind him. "Let's ask senior sister and to come out as well." "The ancestor wants to see her too?" "Yes." Ling Yunpo went back to the back of the Taoist temple and found Nzisu, who was drinking. "Why did you ask me to come over?" Nzisu was also surprised. "I don't know, just take it as a way to relax," Ling Yunpo said. The reason of accompanying the junior brother to relax undoubtedly convinced Nzisu immediately, so she went back to her room to change her clothes and prepared to set off. Looking at Nzisu, who looked brand new and gentle in her eyes and eyebrows, Kyonchinu also smacked his lips in his heart. She has known Nzisu for a long time. Before King Luo Peak recruited disciples, this frost sword immortal always had a murderous aura that kept strangers away, as if he wanted to kill everyone. After having junior brother Lin, it seems that even the maternal aura has been stimulated. Thinking of this, Kyonchinu sneered in her heart again. It's not that she has to talk about feelings, but the heartless flow is about poverty and desire, and the forgetful flow is about self-deception. Both are too self-abuse and stupid. Let's see how far these two people can go in the future. After a brief greeting with Nzisu, Kyonchinu took the two of them up on the sword and came to the top of Tianmen Peak. At the edge of the sword pool, everyone saw the ancestor of the Yuan family standing by the sword pool, staring at the stone tablet beside the sword pool. The head of Yuzheng and several strange monks stood by, standing with their hands behind them, without saying a word. Suming, why not? How ignorant, how ignorant. The Yuan family ancestor stroked his beard and chatted. "I wonder how angry and desperate our Zhao, the former master of the Sun Sword, was when he carved these two lines of words. He betrayed the human race for his own selfish feelings. The Qin and Sun swords were unwilling to be used by him. It was indeed his own fault." The head of Yuzheng said calmly. "Does the head of Yuzheng think that I sympathize with our Zhao?" the Yuan family ancestor asked in surprise. "How could Elder Yuan sympathize with a traitor?" The head of Yuzheng shook his head. "Of course I don't think he was right," the Yuan family ancestor said casually, "but if you put yourself in our Zhao's shoes, you will find that you didn't do anything, and suddenly found that the whole world wanted to kill your wife. What would you do?" "Of course, it's to kill relatives for the sake of justice," the head of Yuzheng said without hesitation. "It is said that Jin Xiaojing was pregnant at the time." The ancestor of the Yuan family continued, "Our Zhao has no relatives. If he wants to kill his relatives for the sake of justice, it is equivalent to destroying his entire family. Destroying his entire family is also reasonable," the head of Yuzheng said coldly. "Who told him to be blind and fall in love with monsters? That's why you who practice the King school can't find that Qin's sword for so many years." The ancestor of the Yuan family sneered and said, "In my opinion, Ain Zhao's reason is hard to accept, but his feelings are pitiful. If the human race was willing to show leniency to Yin Xiaojing at the time and change the killing to life imprisonment, Ain Zhao would not have made such a big mistake later. I'm sorry that I can't agree with it. The head of Yuzheng said, humans and monsters cannot coexist, and there is no room for personal feelings. The ancestor of the Yuan family turned his head to look at Ling Yunpo, smiled and waved his hand and said, Ling boy is here. Come here. What is the name of Ling kid? Ling Yunpo wanted to complain, but seeing that the cultivators beside him, including Yunshin Yu, were all dumbfounded, and looked at him, how can you be so worthy at the old ancestor's attention? He walked forward with a smile. You should have heard the conversation just now. The old ancestor of the Yuan family said with a chuckle, if you were in Aang Zhao's situation, and suddenly found out that your senior sister Nzisu was a demon, and the whole Shushan wanted to kill her, what would you do? The face of the head of Yuzheng changed slightly, and Ling Yunpo immediately panicked and said hurriedly, Old ancestor, you can't say that. My senior sister's identity is innocent, how could you be a demon? Don't take it so seriously. The old ancestor of the Yuan family waved his hand and said, of course I know she is Su Jian's daughter, I was just making an analogy. Is there anyone who makes an analogy like that? Ling Yunpo secretly breathed a sigh of relief. If I hadn't known that my senior sister was the daughter of the master, I almost thought that the old ancestor of the Yuan family was hinting at me. As for the other party's question, to be honest, Ling Yunpo really didn't want to answer such a presupposed question, but seeing that the head of Yuzheng was watching him eagerly, he could only say sternly, if I were Aang Zhao, I would first send Yin Xiaojin back to the Donghuan demon realm, and then hold the Qin and Tian swords in front of the human race and kill myself to apologize. Humph. The head of Yuzheng was obviously not satisfied, and his tone was slightly mocking. The sect has spent a lot of money to train you, and you actually want to destroy your future just for a demon. Isn't this the Yuan family ancestor's random presupposition? Ling Yunpo felt helpless and said, at least I won't lose the Qin swords and let the human race lose the treasure of the clan. Okay. Seeing that the head of Yuzheng wanted to speak, the Yuan family ancestor interrupted and said, it's just a hypothesis. Why are you arguing about this with the junior? The head of Yuzheng was also a little speechless. Isn't it because you made a random assumption? Jian Pian, where are your things? The Yuan family ancestor turned around and asked. It's here. The strange cultivator next to him said softly. Jian Pian. Ling Yunpo's mind moved slightly. Jian Pian, the head of the Jian family in King Zhao, who was in the nascent soul stage, was the best master of divination in the world, the direct disciple of Chuandu, the head of the Yu King temple in Penglai, and the ancestor of Jian Qingnan, Qiu Cheng Tian's junior sister. I didn't expect that he would be invited here by the ancestor of the Yuan family. Jian Pian looked like an elegant middle-aged cultivator. Seeing Ling Yunpo's gaze, he smiled friendly and took out an exquisite jade pillow from his bag. This is the Wanglong pillow, he said. Chapter 202a. Dream. The Wanglong pillow is the rarest magic and divination artifact in the world. It can make the cultivator sleeping on it fall asleep. Jian Bian explained to everyone. I can use magic and divination to assist it, so that the scenes in history can be reproduced in his dreams. If that's the case, why must it be him? The head of Yuzheng asked in a deep voice. Head of Yuzheng. Jian Bian smiled slightly. Magic and divination are not omnipotent, and it is even more impossible to reproduce completely. To improve the accuracy of the dream results, we need two combinations. The so-called two combinations refer to blood combination and heart and nature combination. Aang Zhao has no blood descendants in this world. The ancestor of the Yuan family said unhappily. Yin Xiaojin went to the Donghuan demon realm, and blood combination is definitely not possible. As for heart and nature combination, who else is there in your Shushan Shilin King school besides Ling Kid? Otherwise, Yuzheng, can you recommend another one to me? The head of Yuzheng was blocked by him and remained silent. Whether it is to find clues through the Wanglong pillow or to use the resonance of the natural sword bone to find the immortal sword, Ling Yunpo is undoubtedly the best candidate. And the reason why that Yuan family ancestor asked that question before was to let Ling Yunpo try to substitute Aang Zhao. Thinking about it this way, it is much more reasonable. He decided to remain silent and just watch coldly. Under the guidance of Jian Pian, Ling Yunpo tried to lie on the Wanglong pillow at the same time as senior sister Anne. The Wanglong pillow was not wide. If two people want to lie down and fall asleep at the same time, they need to be very close to each other. In addition, there are a lot of people watching next to them. Not to mention Nzisu, even Ling Yunpo himself feels a little embarrassed. But he is a man of extraordinary mind after all. He hypnotized himself to find the sword and slowly fell asleep. In the blurred vision, there is a hazy figure. Ling Yunpo vaguely remembered that his name seemed to be Aang Zhao. At the top of Tianmen Peak, standing opposite him was his pregnant wife Yin Xiaojin, whose real identity was the kinky sky fox from the Donghuan demon realm. At this moment, suddenly knowing her true identity, he felt almost desperate, as if the whole world had completely darkened on this day. "Why didn't you tell me?" Ain Zhao said painfully. Yin Xiaojin was silent for a moment, and said, "At first, I just wanted to take advantage of your feelings. Now?" Ain Zhao felt heavy in his chest, and for a moment he even felt like he couldn't breathe. "If I don't have any feelings for you now, I would just leave. Why should I wait for you here?" Yin Xiaojin said sadly, coming over to hug Ain Zhao. "Let's elope. Since the human race does not tolerate you and me, let's go back to the Donghuan demon realm. The Sunday and Moon swords are the most precious treasures of the human race. I can't take them to the demon world." Ain Zhao said in a trembling voice, pulling his hair as if he had given up on himself. "I can't. I have already betrayed my master. I can't betray the human race again. You suspect that I am plotting against the twin swords?" Yin Xiaojin smiled miserably. "How about leaving the twin swords here? I just want you to go with me." These words were like an arrow hitting the bullseye, shattering all of Ain Zhao's remaining doubts. He thought again for a moment, gritted his teeth and said, "If we don't have the two swords in our hands, how can we go to the East Empire realm? First, hide the Qin's human sword first, so that the master won't use it against us. In exchange for the whereabouts of the Qin's human sword, the master will let us go. As long as you and I reach the gate of the realm, I will tell you its whereabouts and return the Qin's Hinmali sword. But after all, the Qin's Hinmali sword is in your hands." Yin Xiaojin whispered, "The master will never allow the Hinmali to leak out, and will not believe your verbal guarantee. There is no other way." Ain Zhao said with difficulty, "The two swords are no longer working. If we return the two swords to the master now, we will only die faster." There was a sentence he didn't say in his heart, that is, as long as the Qin and Tin swords were returned and they were not allowed to be obtained by the demon clan, it would be okay for him to die here. But Yin Xiaojin and the child in her belly must survive. After communicating with the Hinmali sword for a moment again, anger and resistance came from the sword spirit. Ain Zhao knew that the son's Hinmali sword was rebelling against him. The two swords were originally born to suppress the demon race. Now he was betraying his master for a demon. How could the two swords recognize him as their master? In extreme despair, he simply held the Hinmali sword and carved two lines of big characters on the stone tablet. "Why do you have to do this?" Yin Xiaojin also shed tears silently. "If I wasn't born into the demon race, at this point, there is no way back." Ain Zhao gritted his teeth and said, "It can only be this way." He grabbed Yin Xiaojin's hand, and the two of them just flew up on the sword when they saw countless streams of light suddenly flying in the distance. Ain Zhao was unable to react in time and was directly pierced through the chest by the light. The whole world collapsed instantly like a broken mirror. Consciousness was sinking rapidly and returned to the body. Ling Yunpo woke up and calmed down a little, so that he had time to sort out the memories of Ain Zhao obtained in the dream. Although he was not aware of it in the dream, he thought clearly after waking up. Ain Zhao did not die unjustly. His mistake was that he actually wanted to be indecisive. Either he completely surrendered to the demons and bravely killed his way through the siege with his two swords, or he chose to negotiate with the human race and try to resolve the differences between the two sides. No matter which situation he chose, he needed to be consistent and firm in his original intention and never waver. What the hell do you always want to leave a way out? Ling Yunpo even speculated with contempt that the human race must not be a monolithic group at the time. Since there is a fighting extermination faction, there must be a peace negotiation and appeasement faction. You, Ain Zhao, have been the sword master for so many years. Don't you have any connections in the sect? Is there no elder in the sect who is willing to protect you and plead for you? At the cost of a peaceful exchange of swords, in exchange for the protection of the sect elders for his wife and himself. Even if it is only temporary protection, let Yin Xiaojin reveal some information about the demons later to prove his key value. Can't the two of them survive? In the era before he traveled through time, many dignitaries relied on peaceful transfer of power and withdrew from the fierce political struggle in time. It was clearly written in history books. There are only 3 key points. First, everyone did not tear each other apart, and was willing to play by the rules of politics. After all, politics is the art of compromise. Second, it is necessary to have enough value for self-protection, so that the cost of political enemies killing themselves is greater than letting go of their own interests. Third, and the most critical point, it is necessary to have a keen political sense and show a willingness to negotiate in time. Anj now had the first 2 points, but did not know the most critical third point, so that he fell and perished, and the human race also lost the treasure of the clan. It can be said that both sides suffered losses, and everyone was a loser. What a pity. What a pity. What a pity. What a pity. Ling Yun broke his silence and sighed. Zisu was in a state of dismay, and it seemed that he had not yet withdrawn from Yin Xiaojing's emotions. The Yuan family's ancestor couldn't wait for the two to recover, and asked Jian Bian anxiously, "How is the calculation going? The mind and nature are together." Jian Bian said in a deep voice, "There is no problem with the calculation process. Let's first ask them what they saw in their dreams." Chapter 203 Senior Sister's Random Thoughts. Under the scrutiny of his seniors, Ling Yunpo organized his thoughts a little, and then recounted what he saw in his dream. When he said, the sword light pierced through his chest, and he fell rapidly downwards, as if he was submerged in water, he was finally interrupted by the headmaster of Yuzheng, who could no longer bear it. "So? Did he tell me the whereabouts of the Qin's human sword?" "No." Ling Yunpo shook his head and said, "I woke up directly." So everyone could not hide their disappointment, and the ancestor of the Yuan family turned around and asked, "Can I end the dream again? One divination cannot be calculated twice." Jian Bian smiled and refused. "Why is that?" The headmaster of Yuzheng frowned and asked, "Will it be backfired? Or is it not accurate the second time?" "It can be calculated." Jian Bian still smiled, "It is accurate, but it will mislead." Everyone was silent. The most frightening thing about the art of divination is accurate, but it will mislead, which is much more terrifying than inaccurate. A seemingly correct wrong conclusion is more difficult to guard against than a completely wrong conclusion. The seniors went to discuss the follow-up action plan, while Ling Yunpo came to Zisu and asked with concern, "Senior sister, are you okay?" "No problem." Zisu hesitated. When she put herself in Yin Xiaojing's shoes in the dream, she could feel the heart-wrenching pain in her heart and the regret for being born a demon. Of course, sympathizing with Yin Xiaojing was completely politically incorrect in Shushan today, so she didn't dare to say it out loud, but just kept it in her heart. The Yuan family ancestor and the head of Yuzheng and others discussed collectively for a while, and finally decided that since there was no way to let it go, they would use a carpet search method again. The so-called carpet search is to let Ling Yunpo maintain the resonant state of the sword bone and walk up and down the entire Tianmen Peak, trying to lure out the Qin's human sword that might be hidden in a corner. The search took 5 hours, almost making Ling Yunpo numb, and finally declared that nothing was found. After returning to King Luo Peak exhausted with senior sister Am, Ling Yunpo was not in the mood to talk and planned to go back to his room to rest. He took a few steps forward and saw Zisu standing in the shadows, seemingly crying. "Ling Yunpo, isn't it that senior sister is so sentimental? She is so immersed in a movie that she can't help herself." "Senior sister. I'm fine." Zisu's words were obviously insincere. After spending so much time together, Ling Yunpo also understood his senior sister's temperament. He immediately pretended not to know and said, "Then let's go back and rest first." Seeing that his junior brother didn't ask any questions, Zisu was helpless and could only take the initiative to ask, "Junior brother, when I entered my dream today, after I substituted into Yin Xiaojing, I always feeling a little sympathetic to her." Ling Yunpo asked tentatively. "Yeah." Zisu nodded. "It's normal for senior sister to think so." Ling Yunpo said earnestly, "But senior sister, you are not in Xiaojing, but in Zisu. Think about it, if we have a pair of junior brothers and sisters in King Luo Peak, and the master has invested a lot of effort in them. Now it is suddenly discovered that the junior sister is a demon, and the junior brother wants to take her away, and also take away the treasures of our King Luo Peak, then I will stop them, and then plead for them to the master." Zisu said without hesitation. Ling Yunpo groaned, then he remembered that his senior sister was so protective of her that she was unreasonable, so he could only change the topic again. "Then let's change it to the junior brothers and sisters from other peaks. Now one of them is a demon, and the other wants to elope with her, and wants to take away the treasures of our King Luo Peak. What will you do?" "Why would the junior brothers and sisters from other peaks take away the treasures of our King Luo Peak?" Zisu asked puzzledly at first, and then became murderous. "Of course I'll kill them." "That's right." Ling Yunpo sighed. "Different identities and positions determine that we will have completely different attitudes when facing the same thing. If senior sister was in Yin Xiaojing's position, she would find it difficult to reconcile the racial justice with her husband and children, and she would naturally feel extremely pitiful. But senior sister is not Yin Xiaojing, but in Zisu. She is not Aang Zhao's wife, but my Ling Yunpo's senior sister, so it is better to consider it from the perspective of Shushan disciples. Is that so? Zisu smiled gently. Junior brother, don't worry, I won't dwell on this. After helping his senior sister to resolve her hard knot, Ling Yunpo said goodbye and went back. Zisu returned to the room, looked at the moonlight outside the window, and suddenly sighed again. Junior brother Ling advised her to think from the perspective of Shushan's righteousness, and she certainly understood what his junior brother meant. However, she had an instinctive fear of sacrificing personal interests for the collective interest. The reason was that for decades, the Shushan peaks had used excuses such as for the righteousness of the sect and asking whether the flow of love is an evil way to connect with each other and jointly exclude King Luo Peak. Zisu could kill off the provocation and malice from fellow disciples with her powerful force. But she could not come up with any good way to deal with the exclusion and embarrassment of those who uphold righteousness and crowned the Tang Emperor. If one day, the Shushan Shanking sect wants to kill my junior brother with righteousness, what should I do? Even if the master stands on the side of the sect after coming out of retreat, what should I do? If that's the case, should I kill my relatives for the sake of justice, or follow Aang Zhao's example and betray the sect? Zisu gritted his teeth silently, feeling upset and unable to even enter a state of meditation. The next morning, Ling Yunpo woke up from his meditation and practiced several great cycles according to the Tiasang Hunyuan's he loved to complete today's Watfu homework. After a cultivator reaches the Watfu stage, what he has to do every day is to breathe in and out to refine the qi and use the true essence to moisten the purple palace in the Danton. To be honest, it's very boring. In the practice of the qi refining stage, you can see the sea of qi in the Danton growing stronger with the improvement of practice. In the practice of the washing marrow stage, you can see the turbid qi in the marrow cavity being continuously removed with the flushing of the true qi. Both can produce corresponding changes, giving the cultivator a clear sense of accomplishment. But the Watfu stage is different. The cultivator is just mechanically, day after day, soaking the purple palace with the true essence, and the change is almost negligible. After finishing the morning class, Ling Yunpo picked up the broom and went to the entrance of the Taoist temple to sweep the floor. After sweeping for a while, Lin Yulanzan and Yuan Zhenu came down from the sky again with swords. Why are you sweeping again? Yuan Zhenu asked in confusion. Let's talk about business first. Lin Yulanzan interrupted her and said, Ling Yunpo, the miasma in the Showan Mountains is about to dissipate. Oh. Ling Yunpo replied listlessly. The Showan Mountains are a large area of mountainous terrain located in the south of Shushan. There are countless monsters, spiritual herbs, and ancient relics. However, out of the 365 days of the year, more than 350 days are shrouded in highly toxic miasma, which not only prevents the spiritual consciousness from spreading, but also damages the physical foundation of the cultivators if inhaled for a long time. The eastern Parabdo is located in Yulong Mountain among the Showan Mountains. The method of passing miasma is a secret that the sect does not pass on. The Shushan Shanking sect has coveted it for a long time, but it is also blocked by the miasma and cannot invade. However, during the coldest 2 weeks of winter each year, which is also the least hot days in southern Xinjiang, the miasma cover in the Showan Mountains will slowly dissipate. At this time, the Shushan Sword Immortals will go south in groups to compete with the Donghuangdu monks for various resources, and they always return with a full load. But what does that have to do with me? Ling Yunpo continued to sweep the floor, and only heard Yuan Zhenu say, as a reward for participating in the sword hunting event yesterday, the ancestor has secured 2 places for you King Luo Peak. Ling Yunpo was slightly startled when he heard this and raised his eyebrows. Zisu tossed and turned, thinking wildly. If the past happened again, and junior brother Ling became the Jin Xiaojin, I would face Aang Zhao's choice. After discovering that junior brother is a demon, should I kill him and kill my relatives for the sake of justice? Or should I betray the sect to save junior brother? She thought for a long time and couldn't sleep all night, but she didn't know that she had hit the nail on the head. Ling Yunpo actually had ulterior motives and was undoubtedly a traitor. One day, I must betray Shushan. How sad. The sect's support is a great favor. When others betray the sect, they are naturally scolded and despised. However, when the incident happened to someone close to them, who could be cruel? Zisu was entangled all night, heartbroken, and finally came to a conclusion. People who don't follow the rules are trash, but those who don't cherish their companions, husbands, are even worse than trash. Chapter 204 Senior Sister's Surprise. The Shushan Shanking sect called the act of organizing a group to go to the Showan Mountains every winter southern expedition. It was not a raid, but a southern expedition. The difference lies in justice. That is, the Shushan Shanking sect believes that the Showan Mountains have been their territory since ancient times. The Showan Mountains in southern Xinjiang were the ancient battlefields where humans and monsters fought in ancient times. A large number of sword cultivators were stationed around Shushan to resist the monsters that tried to go north to seek Guan. In ancient times, with the comprehensive rise of the human race in Xinjiang, the number of cultivators began to increase dramatically. Several immortals began to integrate the forces of the entire cultivation world by accepting disciples and making friends, and gradually formed two behemoths, the sect and the Jiri sect. At the time, the sect was in the west and the Jiri sect was in the east, with the middle section of the ancient road of Xiaohan as the boundary of their forces. Guan and Shu have always been the private land of the sect sword cultivators. The claim to the Showan Mountains also began from then on. As for the distribution of power between the and Jiri sects, how they became intertwined and scattered, and how the Showan Mountains were smuggled and occupied by the Jiri sect monks, it is another long story. In the Showan Mountains, the temperature is basically constant throughout the year, which also makes the miasma, which is extremely sensitive to temperature, continue to exist stably, and only retreats briefly between the big and small cold in winter every year. At this time, the Shanking sect of Shushan will send a large number of sword immortals to the south to harvest the resources in the Showan Mountains. Although the monks of the Donghuangde can pass through the miasma at ordinary times, they cannot completely ignore the miasma, and they also need to harvest resources during this period. In addition, they have to face the competition and threats from the sword immortals of Shushan, so they often choose to invite other magic monks to come to help, making the entire Showan Mountains a cruel battlefield of life and death, and its degree of danger is by no means comparable to any secret trial. For this reason, the Shanking sect of Mount Shu selects the sword immortals for the southern expedition every year, instead of giving every disciple a fair chance to compete, as in the Demon Locking Tower trial. Strong combat power is a necessary basic condition, and implicit political status is naturally also within the scope of consideration. After all, in addition to enemies in the 100,000 mountains, there are all kinds of rare adventures and gains. Therefore, King Luo Peak is almost never involved in the southern expedition every year. This time, Ling Yunpa was able to get such a precious opportunity by relying on the relationship with the ancestor of the Yuan family, which really made him feel like a surprise from heaven. Good. What relics in the 100,000 mountains can accelerate the transformation of the palace? Now we can investigate in advance. Where is senior sister Anne? Lin Yulanzan asked. Ling Yunpo immediately became alert. What do you want to do with senior sister? She is practicing sword at this moment. It's the same if you tell me anything. Lin Yulanzan frowned slightly, but Yuan Zhenu immediately saw the clue and said teasingly, "Don't worry, we are not looking for her for a personal matter, but a serious matter. It is said that this time the Donghuangde has unprecedentedly summoned the Shirodo, the Heavenly Demon Do, the Ingido and the Mortal Do, in an attempt to assassinate our Shushan sword immortal in the 10,000 mountains. 5 Do's gathered together." Ling Yunpo asked in surprise, wasn't it only the Shirodo that participated in the past? They had planned it out long ago. Lin Yulanzan said seriously, first, use the Dragon Riot in the Demon Locking Tower to weaken the strength of our Shushan. It's not weakened much. Ling Yunpa reminded. Well, although it hasn't been weakened much, the revengeful thoughts of our sword immortals have been aroused. Lin Yulanzan added, with the 5 sects gathered together, our Shushan is at a disadvantage. But if we avoid the battle or ask for help from Tai King sect and Yu King temple, we're worried about damaging morale. So can you not be so stubborn about face? Ling Yunpa complained in his heart, but said, that's right. If Donghuangde thinks they can succeed in this way, we must not let them succeed. We Shushan sword immortals are never afraid of strong enemies, we just worry that the enemy is not strong enough. Unyielding personality, synchronization value +1. Junior brother Ling said it well. Lin Yulanzan praised his statement very much. Just the 5 sects of the demon sect gathered together, what do we sword immortals have to fear? Even if all kinds of gods and ghosts block the way, I will kill them with one sword. Yuan Zhenu did not respond, but stared at Ling Yunpo suspiciously, wondering how this guy could have a reckless side. I thought he was a more thoughtful person, it seems that he was only highlighted by Anzisu. After all, the sword immortal Moa is simply a reckless man among reckless men. But if we want to deal with it, in addition to having fearless courage, we also need to do intelligence homework in advance. Lin Yulanzan added, so we plan to come to you and senior sister and to discuss and prepare in advance. I understand. Ling Yunpo nodded, thinking that this is fine. After all, senior brother Lin Yulanzhen is a cautious senior brother who likes to do intelligence investigation in advance. Before the Shushan Fellows competition, he asked me to memorize all the battle intelligence of the top 50 sword immortals. The three of them came to the backyard of the Taoist temple and saw Nzesu, with a flushed face and a little drunk, sleeping soundly on the stone table in the middle of the pavilion, with several narrow-necked jade porcelain wine bottles rolling beside him. Everyone. Lin Yulanzhen looked at Ling Yunpo in astonishment, as if to say, "Is this what you call practicing sword?" Ling Yunpo hurriedly took 2 steps at a time, rushed to the pavilion, grabbed Nzesu's shoulders and shook her violently. "Senior sister, wake up." But Nzesu refused to wake up, and even burped with her eyes closed, and a strong smell of alcohol hit her face. Ling Yunpo had no other choice but to quietly lean over to his senior sister and whisper, "Master has come out of retreat." Nzesu stood up almost instinctively, and it took him a while to wake up. He realized that he had been deceived by his junior brother, so he could only silently use his true energy to refine all the alcohol, and then, as if nothing had happened, he said to Yuanchinu and Lin Yulanzhen, who were already stunned in front of him, "What's wrong? What's the matter?" Lin Yulanzhen was still in a daze, but Yuanchinu quickly calmed down and said with a smile, "The miasma in the Shouan Mountains is about to dissipate, and the faction has already begun to prepare for the southern expedition." "Oh." Nzesu's response was exactly the same as Ling Yunpo's, that is, "What does it have to do with me?" As a reward for the last sword hunting operation, the ancestor asked for 2 places for the 2 of you. Yuanchinu continued. "Really?" Nzesu was overjoyed. He turned to Ling Yunpo and said, "That's great, junior brother. There is a relic in the Shouan Mountains, which should be able to speed up the transformation of the palace. We must go this time." I was just about to tell senior sister another bad news. Lin Yulanzhen said, "This time the Donghuan duo has almost summoned the entire demon duo to come to the Shouan Mountains to fight against our Shushan, so the danger level is probably far greater than before. That's even better." Nzesu smiled. He turned to Ling Yunpo and said, "Junior brother, this time the opportunity is rare. We don't have to hold back. We can fight the demon cult with all our strength." Lin Yulanzhen, Yuanchinu, Ling Yunpo. "So when you stay in Shushan, no one is worthy of your all, right?" Chapter 205 Quasi-Natural Sword Heart 2023801 Author Yushu Chapter 205 Accurate. Born with a sword heart since he successfully obtained a place in the southern expedition to the 10,000 mountains, senior sister Ram's attitude has become more and more strict during this period. First, we need to train junior brother Ling's basic skills of sword immortals, that is, reaction speed and reaction time. The specific method is to let him use a single sword against senior sister Ram's double swords. After a few days of practice, Ling Yunpo began to complain bitterly. "In the past, I was no match for senior sister Ram's 2-handed sword control. Now it has been changed to only a single sword. Isn't it equivalent to cutting off one arm and sending food to senior sister?" Protest. There is something wrong with this training method. He tentatively mentioned it several times, but was directly rejected by the smiling senior sister. The reason is also very simple and plain. More tears in peacetime, less blood in war. That's right, the sparring with senior sister and during this period is not as simple as sweating, but will be beaten to tears by a tough guy, almost doubting whether he has the talent for kendo. Ling Yunpo was really overwhelmed, so he could only secretly communicate with Kingping Sword and Kunlun Mirror to discuss strategies to defeat senior sister An. "Your senior sister seems to have the talent of natural sword heart," Kunlun Mirror suddenly said. "Natural sword heart?" Ling Yunpo said in surprise, "Isn't that a peerless talent that matches the natural sword bone? And I remember that although the two are often compared, the natural sword heart is actually slightly inferior to the natural sword bone. Why can't I beat my senior sister?" "That's natural," Kingping Sword said with a smile. "The natural sword heart is a bonus to the sword experience, but the sword experience can also be cultivated through hard training. How can it compare to the bonus of the natural sword bone to the flying sword itself? But your realm is low now, and you can't exert the power of high-level flying swords. In addition, your senior sister has much more experience in fighting than you, so you are not her opponent." Ling Yunpo suddenly realized. Senior sister's talent is software, and my talent is hardware. If the software is not good, you can download better ones, but if the hardware is not good, you can only reincarnate and change. No. Cunning Mirror said uncertainly. She probably doesn't have natural swordsmanship yet, but has the corresponding potential, and has already touched the threshold of developing qualifications. After she fully develops her talent, I want to record her into the mirror. Okay. Ling Yunpo thought that recording would not harm Senior Sister anyway, but what is Senior Sister's personality template? Protecting shortcomings. Cunning Mirror replied. Indeed. Ling Yunpo said it was hard not to agree. She was cold and vigilant to the outside world, but she was gentle and broad-minded like an older sister to the inside. Protecting shortcomings couldn't be more appropriate to describe it. Let's get back to business. Kingping Sword laughed. Her incomplete natural swordsmanship is actually a kind of intuition that is detached from thinking. Since it is detached from thinking, it is easy to be induced and deceived. Just follow the moves I teach you. Ling Yunpo was learning and applying on the spot, and various tricks emerged one after another, which immediately made Nzisu a little tricky and headache. However, she was not frustrated and irritated. She just thought to herself that he was indeed a junior brother, and he could find a way to deal with me so quickly, so her sword controlling skills became more powerful. After practicing for almost a month, Ling Yunpo read the game and went to Kunlin. Point 1. Kunlin Tai King Sect, Jinling. Character identity. Qiu Chain's Iron. Mirror Flower Water Moon Templar covered, in the process of time travel. In the morning, after Qiu Chain's Iron finished preaching to the junior brothers and sisters, everyone saluted to the chief senior brother and then left the cave one by one. Zhu Yingyan stayed as usual, without saying a word. After the junior brothers and sisters left with ambiguous expressions, Qiu Chain's Iron asked, "What's wrong, junior sister? Do you have inspiration for a new song? Besides composing music and playing together, there is no other business to find you." Zhu Yingyan raised his eyebrows and argued with him. "Do you think I only bother you with personal matters?" "Of course not." Qiu Chain's Iron smiled casually, but with the invincible temperament of his personality, he became more hateful in Zhu Yingyan's eyes. "So, what is the important matter, junior sister?" Zhu Yingyan tried hard to calm down, and then said, "Grandpa wants to see you." "Grandpa?" Qiu Chain's Iron was stunned at first, and then he realized that she was talking about Zhu Changqing, the chief of the Foundation building realm. Master Zhuya, the head of the sect, is usually busy with all kinds of affairs. If there is anything to tell the disciples in the Foundation building realm, he will often ask Zhu Changqing to pass it on. Therefore, Qiu Chain's Iron and Zhu Yingyan flew on their swords together and went to Zhu Changqing's cave to see if the master had anything else to tell them. After entering the cave, the two saw Zhu Changqing sitting on a stone bed, but he was not wearing a Kunlun Taoist robe, but only a white single-piece dress, and his hair was casually draped behind his shoulders. "Big brother." Qiu Chain's Iron saluted and greeted. "Junior brother Qiu." Zhu Changqing asked gently, "How have your studies been going recently? Do you have any questions?" It is also the responsibility of the big brother of the Foundation establishment realm to answer questions for the previous generations of the chief of the Foundation establishment realm, so Qiu Chain's Iron did not hesitate to speak openly about a few difficult points in the Nine Heavens Pure Land realm mantra. Zhu Changqing thought for a while, and then answered in a simple and easy-to-understand way. His answer was not as exquisite as that of the Zhuyi sect leader, but it was straightforward and simple, which made it more suitable for the junior brothers to understand. After answering the questions, Qiu Chain's Iron hurriedly thanked him, but Zhu Changqing waved his hand to indicate that it was not necessary, and said, "Junior brother Qiu, do you know, in a few days, I will form a golden elixir." "Form a golden elixir?" Qiu Chain's Iron asked in astonishment. "Didn't I hear that it will take a few more years? Now I am already 186 years old." Zhu Changqing laughed, adding, "The many adventures and resources I have gained in my life, it is about 230 years of Immortal Cultivation. Although the Danton Jade Palace has been built, it is still a long way from the second-grade golden elixir. What's the point of delaying it for a few more years?" Qiu Chain's Iron was silent after hearing this, thinking that it was not meant to be. Ordinary cultivators often choose to form an elixir at the age of 190. Although senior brother Zhu only has 4 years left, if he travels around to look for immortal caves, who can guarantee that he will not encounter an adventure and gain a few more decades of Immortal Cultivation? Well, it takes at least 400 years to make a second-grade golden elixir, and there is still a gap of 170 years, which is indeed a bit too much. After all, there is a third-grade golden elixir as a foundation. Qiu Chang's Han bowed his hands and congratulated him. As long as the formation of the elixir and the formation of the fetters are smooth, it is not impossible to ascend to the position of Dailao Jingxian in the future. I don't want to think too much for now. Zhu Chang King waved his hand and smiled. I would like to thank the 3 Pure Ones for successfully passing the 3rd grade Golden Elixir Tribulation. Grandpa, don't say unlucky words. Zhu Yingyan interrupted him hurriedly. It doesn't matter. Zhu Chang King stopped at the right time and brought up the business with Qiu Chang's Han again. Master means that on the day when I pass the tribulation, I will let you take a good look at it from the outside and feel what the tribulation is like. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Mundo Fanfic Novelers, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelers. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 206. The Power of Heavenly Tribulation. Heavenly Tribulation is the thing that all cultivators fear the most. Although there are many difficulties and obstacles on the road of cultivation. But if you force yourself to be cautious, you can avoid it. But there are only 3 heavenly tribulations: the condensation of pills, the formation of fetuses, and the ascension of immortality, which every cultivator cannot escape. The higher the grade of the pill, the more the power of the heavenly tribulation will double, so that the survival rate of high-level heavenly tribulations is much smaller than that of low-level heavenly tribulations. You know, those who can reach a higher grade of pills are all elite disciples of major sects, and they all have a certain amount of luck, and they are definitely the chosen ones. It can only be said that cultivation is ultimately against the will of heaven. The more powerful the cultivator, the easier it is to fall during the heavenly tribulation. It is indeed the way of heaven killing the rich and helping the poor, and manually redistributing. The essence of the heavenly tribulation is thunder. Qiu Chang's Han practiced the 5 thunders orthodoxy, and the heavenly thunder, one of the 5 thunders, is the tribulation thunder. There may be various rich forms, such as gold, wood, water, fire, earth, scenery, light, sound, darkness, and smoke, but the nature is definitely thunder. As for the power of thunder magic, there is no need to say more. Just look at the exaggerated price offered by the demon cult to Qiu Chang Tian, and you can see the strong fear behind it. The thunder of heavenly tribulation, whether in terms of scale or strength, is far superior to the thunder magic that cultivators can use. Qiu Chang Tian and Zhu Yingyan stood on the snowy peak, looking at Zhu Chang King sitting in the snowy valley in the distance. This is Kunlun's Thunder Tribulation Valley. Most of the cultivators of all generations would choose to cross the tribulation here, so that the valley bottom and the surrounding area were almost flattened by the heavenly tribulation, and it would expand again every once in a while. Brother! Zhu Yingyan whispered, and the cold wind on the top of the mountain blew her Taoist robe. She put her messy hair behind her ears, and then hugged her arms. I'm a little scared. Oh? Qiu Chang's Han was a little surprised, but he didn't expect that this strong-willed sister would suddenly show such a weak emotion. Kunlun Mirror quickly removed the invincible persona temporarily, and heard Zhu Yingyan continue to say, I'm worried whether Grandpa can survive the heavenly tribulation. There's no point in worrying. Qiu Chang's Han said gently, but I believe that senior brothers you won't do anything without confidence. Who can dare to say that they're sure of the heavenly tribulation? Zhu Yingyan said faintly. Practicing is against the will of heaven. Qiu Chang's Han said. But I heard that if you die in the heavenly tribulation, not only will your body be shattered, but your soul will also be scattered and you will not be able to enter the reincarnation cycle. Zhu Yingyan said. Are you scared, junior sisters you? Qiu Chang's Han glanced at her. However, without the temperament bonus of the invincible persona, this glance did not have any provocative power, and was instantly seen through by Zhu Yingyan's 7-aperture exquisite mind. She knew that her senior brother was trying to provoke her and cheer her up, so she smiled faintly. Why not? Sooner or later, I will also have to go through the heavenly tribulation, and it may be the heavenly tribulation of the 2nd grade golden elixir. 2nd grade golden elixir. Qiu Chang's Han laughed dumbly and swallowed the rest of the words. I can only say that you are happy. But... Zhu Yingyan was silent for a moment and continued, although I am afraid, I still have to move forward. The so-called pursuit of the Tao is probably like this. Maybe it's because I am more afraid of being left behind. She secretly laughed at herself in her heart. Junior sister's words are deeply in my heart. Qiu Chang's Han said with approval, and this statement deeply won the sectarian spirit of Kunlun Tai King sect. No more talking, the heavenly tribulation is about to begin. Zhu Yingyan swept his eyes to the sky. The originally clear and bright sky, I don't know when, has a large area of heavy clouds, in which there are faint lightning and thunder, and the shining arc is almost the size of a mountain, which is very scary to look at. What kind of thunder is that? Zhu Yingyan asked in shock, with a tremor in his voice. Soon golden lightning, Qiu Changtian said solemnly, it's close to the power of the second grade golden elixir heavenly tribulation. As soon as the word fell, the golden arc of light suddenly fell like a storm, and the two of them were so frightened that they quickly flew into the air with their swords and retreated quickly. The soon golden lightning heavenly tribulation hit the bottom of the valley, and the shockwave immediately spread, shaking Qiu Changtian and Zhu Yinlian, who were in the sword-riding state, tottering and almost unable to maintain balance. Looking at the hilltop where the two had just stood, it had been directly plowed away by the shockwave. I didn't expect the range of the heavenly tribulation to be so far, be careful. Zhu Yinlian suddenly shouted a warning. There were already several swoon golden lightning, which turned into huge electric current snakes, and fell from the edge of the tribulation cloud towards the two. Zhu Yinlian quickly made a hand gesture, and quickly sprayed out a great light fire from his mouth and nose, instantly covering the entire sky. However, those electric snakes soon tore through the flame wall smoke, like swords tearing through fragile cotton cloth, and continued to whistle down towards the two people, until they were hit by a huge talisman made of spiritual energy, and their speed slowed down to a level that could be captured by the naked eye. Your rank is too low. Qiu Changtian continued to cast the Supreme Chuanji Spirit Talisman, trying to slow down the delay of these thunders, while pulling Zhu Yinlian, who was still trying to spit out the great light fire. The true energy strength of the marrow washing stage cannot confront the heavenly tribulation head-on. Zhu Yinlian was pulled back by him, and seeing those electric snakes tearing through a talisman, but then trapped in the shackles of another talisman, he had to admit that his strength of the marrow washing stage was really not enough to face the heavenly tribulation of the third grade golden elixir. The two retreated to a safe area in one breath, and those electric snakes stopped chasing them, and turned around and pounced on Zhu Changking at the bottom of the valley. Looking at senior brother Zhu, he almost took the same countermeasures as Qiu Changtian, using the sealing power of the Supreme Chuanji Talisman to restrain and weaken a large number of electric snakes. However, more and more thunderbolts began to break through the binding seal of the talisman and continued to pounce fiercely on Zhu Changking. Watch carefully. Qiu Changtian suddenly said. Zhu Yinlian looked carefully and saw that Zhu Changking in the center of the valley was still constantly sending out talismans with his right hand, but his feet had already begun to take mysterious steps, always avoiding the thunderbolts just right, causing it to hit a big hole in the ground. Is that a formation? Zhu Yinlian said uncertainly. It's a pre-arranged formation. Qiu Changtian replied, the time and place to deal with the heavenly tribulation are optional. It would be a pity not to use the formation. But I heard that if you use the power of the formation, the intensity of the heavenly tribulation will increase as the strength of the formation increases. Zhu Yinlian said nervously. To be precise, a cultivator cannot completely rely on formations. Qiu Changtian corrected her, his eyes fixed on the center of the valley. Watch carefully, there are some weaker thunderbolts. He chooses to use flying swords to resist. Zhu Yinlian looked into the distance and found that Zhu Changking was indeed using a well-defined tactic as Qiu Changtian said. The main force of the heavenly tribulation is to use the Supreme Chuanji Spirit Talisman to delay the restraint. This derivative Taoist art of Nine Heavens Pure Land Realm mantra is the only way for the Kunlun Master disciples of all generations to fight against the heavenly tribulation. As for those thunderbolts that break through the restraints, the big ones are diverted and avoided by formations, and the small ones are resisted by flying swords or magic weapons. How long can we hold on at this rate? Zhu Yinlian said dryly, with a worried look on her face. The Taishank Chuanji Talisman only delayed the whereabouts of the main forces of the heavenly calamity, instead of eliminating them. Before she finished her words, a large amount of electric snakes rushed down, finally exceeding the critical point of the talisman's binding and instantly engulfing Zhu Changking's figure. Chapter 207. Foundation Establishment Stage, Grand Chief. Zhu Yinlian's face turned pale. As a family of immortal cultivators, she had already known the horror of the heavenly tribulation from various classics. However, when she saw the heavenly tribulation in front of her, she realized that all the records in the ancient books had seriously downplayed its true power. Each thunderbolt was a thick electric snake that could easily tear apart the obstacles of various Taoist methods. Only high-level immortal swords or powerful magic weapons could defeat it. and there were hundreds of such thunderbolts at the same time. As the calamity clouds got lower and lower, the electric snakes became more and more dense, forcing Qiu Changtime and Zhu Yingyan to retreat again to avoid being affected by the aftermath of the heavenly tribulation. And the means Zhu Changqing used to deal with the thunderbolts also disappeared from their sight as they were submerged by more electric snakes. Grandfather, Zhu Yingyan hesitated. He's still alive. Qiu Changtime comforted her, otherwise the heavenly tribulation would not continue. But he seems to be on the verge of his limit, right? Zhu Yingyan said anxiously. At this time, the two had retreated to about 20 miles away. They saw that the calamity clouds in the distance had been pressed very low. The surface of the valley was almost invisible in the center. It was completely covered by the continuously erupting, hot and golden lava ocean. In fact, it was a terrifying catastrophe accumulated by almost a sea of white cloud gold lightning. Within a few miles outside the ocean, all the snow peaks were melted and burned by the huge heat, revealing the surface with a brilliant color almost like glass, and the ground was shaking continuously. There was an ominous strong wind in the air. The heat flow brought by the calamity caused the surrounding air to rise and convect, blowing the two people flying swords in the air to shake constantly. Qiu Changtime looked at the ocean in silence, and after a moment of silent estimation in his heart, he realized that the scope of this calamity was almost comparable to a nuclear bomb explosion. And it was the kind of intensive explosion that continuously dropped bombs on the target location. Is this kind of unreasonable thing what I have to deal with when I am forming a pill to overcome the calamity? No. By the time I pass the Danjie tribulation, the Danqing will probably have to reach the second grade, and the corresponding heavenly tribulation is estimated to be extremely difficult. He was thinking with mixed feelings, while Zhu Yingyan widened her eyes and stared at the terrifying heavenly tribulation that was destroying the world. Can I hope to survive such a terrifying heavenly tribulation? For a moment, her will was shaken, and she couldn't help but glance at her senior brother next to her, but she saw that Qiu Changtime's handsome face was surprised and thoughtful, but there was no worry or fear. Junior sister Zhu immediately seemed to have found her backbone, and suddenly she inexplicably regained her confidence. After so many years of competing with her senior brother, she has developed an instinctive reaction that is almost like a conditioned reflex. As long as my senior brother can do it, why can't I? I can do it too, even if I can't. Such thoughts do not need any reasonable logic to support them. In short, if my senior brother can't do it, I can do it or not. But if my senior brother can do it, I must do it. And I have to do it better than him. So all the worries and anxieties were transformed into full fighting spirit. Qiu Changtime didn't understand why. He saw that junior sister Zhu was pale at first, but then she suddenly became energetic. He couldn't help but mutter a few words in his heart. This junior sister was really crazy. The heavenly tribulation lasted for about 3 hours. As the tribulation clouds gradually dissipated, the lava ocean below was also slowly drying up. A stream of green light shot from a distance. It was the head of Ziwei who rushed here. In an instant, it passed over the heads of the two and flew to the center of the Thunder Tribulation Valley. Qiu Changtime and Zhu Yingyan looked at each other and followed with their swords. When they arrived at the center of the Thunder Tribulation Valley, they saw Zhu Changqing, who was covered in blood, sitting on the ground, with a purple and black aura on his face, and his hands constantly releasing the universal clear sound small light technique towards himself. On the ground around him, there were various fragments scattered, magic weapons, flying swords, formation flags. Most of them had been turned into powder under the thunder, and only a small number of fragments remained, with glowing traces of spiritual power on them. Luo Yan had experience in casting instruments in Tiangong Fan after all. Qiu Changtime took a quick look and judged that at least 50 instruments were destroyed in the heavenly tribulation. On the one hand, it showed the wealth of the Zhu family in Tianan. On the other hand, senior brother Zhu used so many magic weapons and flying swords, but he was still beaten like this by the heavenly tribulation. Then how many instruments should I prepare to survive the second grade golden elixir tribulation? 100? 200? It would be useless if the grade is not up to par, he calculated silently in his heart, and saw Ziwei sect master cast a few spells, and Zhu Changqing's face immediately looked much better. Master? Zhu Yingyan asked softly. He's fine. Ziwei sect master said lightly, it's just that his foundation was severely damaged. It's not easy to save his life. He needs to retreat for a period of time. Zhu Yingyan was obviously relieved, and Qiu Changtime looked at Zhu Changqing's face and thought to himself that this period of time would be at least 10 years. From today on. Ziwili sect leader turned to Kyo Chang's Hein and pointed the whisk at him. You are the chief disciple of the Foundation Establishment Realm. I'm ashamed. Kyo Chang's Hein bowed his hands to accept the offer. Ziwili sect leader did not give him the opportunity to continue to be polite. He just waved his hand, then wrapped Zhu Chang King in with the sword light, and after leaving a word, he flew towards the Kunlun Tian Zhu. This matter is over. Go to Kunlun Patriarch Hall to receive the gift. The sword light disappeared into the sky. Kyo Chang's Hein and Zhu Yinglyan looked at each other for a moment, and the junior sister sighed and said, Congratulations, senior brother. Congratulations. Kyo Chang's Hein said reservedly. As Kyo Chang's Hein became the chief disciple of the Foundation Establishment Realm, he could get the treatment of Ziwili sect leader to answer questions in person, and his understanding of the true words of the Nine Heavens King Wei entry would have a qualitative leap. Zhu Yinglyan and other junior brothers and sisters were usually answered by Kyo Chang Tian, so they could naturally benefit greatly from it. The so-called one person's enlightenment brings prosperity to all chickens and dogs means this. After sending junior sister back to Jinlian Cave, Yan Zichui and others had received the news and came to congratulate the eldest brother. Congratulations to senior brother Kyo for taking the position of the Grand Chief at the Foundation Establishment Realm. Senior brother Kyo was now a true big brother. Kyo Chang's Hein nodded in thanks one by one, chatting and laughing with his junior brothers and sisters. Zhu Yinglyan pursed her lips and said nothing beside him, just smiling faintly. Great-grandfather Zhu Chang King successfully survived the heavenly tribulation, and senior brother Kyo became the Grand Chief at the Foundation Establishment Realm. It can be said that good things come in pairs, and double happiness has come, which makes her very happy. The junior brothers and sisters saw the joy on her face, and some of them didn't know the relationship between her and the previous Grand Chief. They thought that senior sister Zhu really missed senior brother Kyo, and they didn't know how far their relationship had progressed. After saying goodbye to the junior brothers and sisters, Kyo Chang's Hein flew to Kunlun Tian Zhu on his sword. According to the sect rules, the chief disciple of this generation is mainly responsible for internal affairs, but the chief disciples of the Foundation Building Realm and the Golden Elixir Realm have to shoulder some of the sect's external responsibilities, so they need to be formally received in the Ancestral Hall. When Kyo Chang's Hein arrived at the ancient Kunlun Ancestral Hall of Yaxu Palace, he was surprised to see that not only the Ziwili sect master was here, but also most of the Yuning elders were here, and even several guests of the sect who are usually elusive had gathered in the hall at this time, greeting and chatting with other elders. Not for anything else, just to come and get to know this new chief, a rare genius in 1,000 years, a person with a clear mind of Tao. Chapter 208. Chief, meet the master. The 280th generation disciple Kyo Chang's Hein will serve as the chief disciple of the Foundation Establishment Realm from today on. Grandmaster, please be informed. The head of Ziwili sect held 3 long incense sticks, solemnly inserted them into the incense burner, and said loudly. The voice echoed in the ancestral hall, and the elders all looked solemn. Outside Kunlun, in countless caves, the bigwigs from all walks of life also felt something, and when they looked up, they knew that the position of the chief disciple of the Foundation Establishment Realm in Kunlun had changed. After the chief ceremony, the head of Ziwili sect waved his whisk again, and a Taoist robe and a Taoist crown floated over and fell into Kyo Chang's Hein's arms. The Taoist robe is called Xingxida robe. It is as smooth as silk when it passes through the hand, but if you look closely, there is no needle hole or gap. The style is the same as the Taoist robe of Kunlun's inner disciples, and there is almost no big difference. Only the star map of the 28 constellations is embroidered on the back, which includes the 4 constellations formation, which is very useful in defeating enemies and saving lives. It is said that Zhu Chang King activated the 4 constellations formation on his robe at the last moment, and was able to save his life in the lava ocean formed by the thunder. When he was crossing the heavenly tribulation, a bunch of magic weapons and flying swords were destroyed, but this robe was safe and sound, without even a trace of burning, so you can understand how powerful it is. The Taoist crown is called the Sun and Moon Condensed Crown, which has the same appearance as the Taoist crown of the inner sect disciples, but the front is embroidered with a sun in silver thread and the back is embroidered with a moon. There are 2 Taoist methods that can be activated. One is the Great Sun Wheel method, which can revive the dead after being activated, and is a magical skill to prolong life with blood. The other is the Virtual Moon Reflection method, which can calm the 3 souls and 6 spirits after being activated, and can be immune to mental attacks. One heals and restores health, the other dispels negative states, plus the Taoist robe's 4 symbols constellation formation, which means that the survival ability of the chief at the Foundation Building Realm will increase several times when he puts on this outfit. Kyo Chang's Hyun thought for a moment and realized that the design of this Taoist robe and Taoist hat is to let the chief concentrate on breathing and refining ki, and to improve his cultivation with all his strength, and not to consider whether he can fight with others outside. Go to the back hall to change clothes, and then go to the inner hall to meet the ancestor. Ziwei headmaster ordered. Kyo Chang's Hyun saluted silently, and then entered the back hall with the Taoist robe and Taoist temple. In an empty corner, he changed into the clothes and hat that symbolized the chief of the Foundation building realm, and then he pulled out the Jade Dragon sword, facing the shiny sword body, and examined his appearance. Yes, I am handsome, worthy of me, and the majesty of the chief immediately came out. Kyo Chang's Hyun gathered his sleeves, walked like a dragon and a tiger, and walked deep into the back hall. This ancestral hall is usually not open to the public. He has never been here before, but he has heard people say that it seems to be filled with incense tablets of many great masters of the sect. After passing through the long table of tablets, Kyo Chang's Hyun saw a door at the end. After pushing open the door, the view in front of him suddenly became clear. He was actually outside. Within 3 steps ahead, he saw the edge of the cliff. Below was an endless sea of clouds, which was quite similar to the secret realm of the Queen Mother of the West Palace. There was another stone staircase that connected from the edge of the cliff to the top of a mountain on the opposite side. There seemed to be no object supporting the stone steps, as if they were floating in the air regardless of gravity. Kyo Chang's Hyun curled his lips and stepped carefully onto the first step to test the stability. Well, it was very stable and did not shake at all. Judging from the length of this stone step, it was probably some kind of immortal law restriction that did not follow the laws of physics, so there was no need to worry about it collapsing halfway through. Kyo Chang's Hyun climbed up the steps, and felt that the weather was fine and sunny, completely different from the wind that blew like a knife over the Kumlan snow peak outside. The stone steps under his feet were also stable, supporting his weight effortlessly. When he came to the end of the stone steps, Kyo Chang's Hyun saw that the top of the mountain was not very large, with only a small temple standing alone. An old man was sitting in front of a stone bench in front of the temple door, staring at a stone table in a daze. The stone table was crisscrossed with the longitude and latitude of the go board, and black and white pieces were scattered all over the place, interlaced, and seemed to be evenly matched. The old man stroked his beard with his left hand, and used his right hand to place the white piece first, then the black piece, and then the white piece again, saying, "Wait a minute, let me finish this game of chess." Kyo Chang's Hyun bowed his hands, and then stood respectfully beside him, not looking at the chessboard, but just said nothing. If it were the protagonist of a novel, the male protagonist would suddenly give some advice on the chess game, and the old man would ponder for a moment, and then be amazed and look at him with new eyes, but unfortunately, Kyo Chang's Hyun didn't know how to play Go. Even if he knew how to play, he couldn't figure out the old man's personality. What if the other party didn't like others to interfere and talk too much? Wouldn't he be self-defeating? Fortunately, the old man didn't let him wait, and after only 30 or 40 moves, the 2 sides on the chessboard decided the winner. The old man waved his long sleeves across the chessboard, turning all the chess pieces into nothing. The old man then turned around and said with a smile, "Very good, you are sensible. Are you the new chief of the Foundation building realm?" "Greetings, Grandmaster." Kyo Chang's Hyun bowed and saluted. "Junior, no. The old man said with a smile, "It's rare to find someone with a clear mind of Tao." "I know that." He pointed his hand towards the inner hall and said, "Go ahead. Since you didn't disturb my interest, I will remind you. If you are not able to do it, you can take a rest for a while." Kyo Chang's Hyun. "What do you mean? Sleep when you encounter difficulties?" However, the old man didn't seem to want to answer in detail. He just waved his robe sleeves and the door of the small hall opened. Kyo Chang's Hyun hurriedly walked in and saw that the area of the hall was not large, about 30 square meters. There was an incense table against the wall in front, and on the table was the statue of Daokitian Droditian son of Tai King realm. There was another worn-out cushion in front of the incense table, and its purpose was self-evident. Tai King, Shang King, and Yu King, the 3 San King Tians enshrined in the ancestral hall of the 3 purities of the sect today, were not the great powers of the sect in history, but the personification of the Great Tao. Therefore, Kyo Chang's Hyun knelt down without any psychological pressure and began to pray silently. Disciple Kyo Chang's Hyun, the current chief disciple of the Kumlan Tai King sect in the Foundation building realm, may the ancestor bless the disciple. Thinking of this, he suddenly realized that some mysterious power descended from the air and began to invade his garden. To be precise, after this power penetrated into the Jade Palace, it began to rapidly rotate his Qihai Yuan, and constantly infiltrated and repaired the defects of the inner wall of his Jade Palace. Kneeling here can actually increase my Wafu cultivation. Qiu Changtian was overjoyed and hurriedly cooperated with the circulation of the Zhaotian to accelerate his cultivation. However, as more and more mysterious power penetrated, he felt a sense of losing control of his body for a while, and his mind became drowsy. He subconsciously tried to bite the tip of his tongue to stay awake, but suddenly he remembered the advice of the old man outside, so he slowly relaxed without making a sound, and soon his consciousness was completely dominated by sleepiness. Chapter 209 The whereabouts of the second piece of the heaven repairing stone. The chiefs of the Kunlun Foundation establishment realm in all generations have an unknown benefit. That is, after taking office, they can go to the Tianmen Hall deep in the Patriarch Hall to worship the Great Pure Heavenly Venerable. The ancient statue of the Great Pure Heavenly Venerable here is not an ordinary puppet clay sculpture, but an ancient object that has been passed down before the teaching of the sect. It can allow the worshipper to obtain a one-time enlightenment baptism, thereby greatly advancing the current realm of cultivation. In theory, no matter what realm the cultivator is in, he can get an almost huge bonus through this enlightenment. In fact, it is the most cost-effective to realize the Tao at the waffle level of the Foundation establishment realm, because the solidity of the waffle level directly determines the grade of the Jindan. The Jindan grade limits the upper limit of the Union grade, and even the upper limit of the U Ascension. It can be said to be the bottom foundation of the cultivation tower, and it must be taken with caution. If a Kunlun cultivator with good qualifications starts to cultivate at the age of 10, he will refine Qi for 40 years, wash his marrow for 10 years, and spend all the remaining time on Wafu. If he does not achieve Jindan, his lifespan will not exceed 200 years. By the time he was 190 years old, it was about 130 years of Transformation Palace. As long as he became the chief of the Foundation building realm, and then went to the Tianmen Hall to worship the ancient statue of Tai King Tianzun, he could gain 70 years of Transformation Palace cultivation at one time, which added up to 200 years, just enough to reach the threshold of the third grade golden elixir. This is why that chief of the Foundation building realm of Kunlun in all generations, the elixir grade was not lower than the third grade. If he wanted to reach the second grade golden elixir, the required Transformation Palace cultivation would double to 400 years, and he would have to have all kinds of adventures to assist him, which could not be forced unless he was the son of destiny. When Ling Yunpo entered the Transformation Palace stage in the Demon Locking Tower, he had 130 years of life left, including the acceleration of the Sea of Clouds and Cocoons. Leaving 10 years to be just in case, he could still practice hard for 120 years. Add to that 60 years of Golden Mercury Elixir, 30 years of empty cocoons in the Sea of Clouds, and 70 years of enlightenment in Kunlun Tianmen Hall, which is 280 years of hard practice. There is still a gap of 120 years to the second grade Golden Elixir. Qiu Changtian suddenly woke up from his enlightenment and quickly looked inward. He found that the Purple Mansion was almost natural and had the basic outline of the Jade Mansion. In other words, he was about to reach the threshold of the upper grade Golden Elixir. He stood up from the futon and bowed respectfully to the ancient statue of Tai King Tianzun to express his gratitude. There is still a gap of 120 years, and Ouyang from Yu King Temple needs to start to exert his strength. First, let the Elder Shiding know and accept the fact that he has been promoted to the Wafu level in a reasonable way, and then start to inquire about any methods to advance the Wafu. The expected value is to be able to advance at least 60 years. The remaining gap will be made up by Wei Dongliu. Second grade Golden Elixir, go. Leaving Tianmen Hall, Qiu Changtian once again saluted and thanked the old Taoist priest outside the hall. No need to be polite. The old Taoist laughed. With your talent, you are worthy at the title of the chief of the Foundation building realm, and I dare not take credit for it. I also want to thank the ancestor for reminding me. Qiu Changtian said seriously. With his emotional intelligence, it is not difficult to guess that the old Taoist priest in front of him is the immortal who guards the Kunlun Tai King sect in the legend. Otherwise, how can he guard a Tianmen Hall here? Aren't you afraid that the ancient statue of Tai King Tianzun will be stolen by other powerful people? After exchanging pleasantries with the old Taoist priest for a while and brushing some initial impression points, Qiu Changtian said goodbye and left. Walking along the stone steps back to Kunlun Tianzu, pushing the door to enter the back hall of the Ancestor Hall, he suddenly heard Kunlun Mirror calling softly. Cheng Yuan's Yu, Qiu Changtian. He was stunned for a long time before realizing that this was his name before he traveled to this world. It is also the only real name that he recognizes and can represent his true identity. Really, he has worn various masks for too long, and even the memory of what the real face under the mask looks like has become a little fuzzy. What's wrong, a Jin? Chen Yonzui asked patiently. The fragment of the Butian stone. Kunlun Mirror said slowly, I just sensed it. It's in the chess basket of the old Taoist priest, with the black chess pieces. Chen Yonzui was speechless. The fragments of the Butian stone were divided into 6 pieces, and now the whereabouts of 4 pieces have been found, respectively in the hands of Kunlun Tai King Sect, Shushanshan King Sect, Penglayu King Temple, and the Demon Sect Hell Road. Among them, the 2 fragments of Kunlun and Shushan are in the hands of the sect's Immortal Cultivation Elder. Think about it carefully, how could the owner of such an innate wonder like the Butian stone be an ordinary person? A Jin, you are not a human being. You want me to seek the fragment of the Butian stone from more than one immortal, okay. Kunlun Mirror said depressedly, there is nothing I can do about it. Besides, I didn't set a time limit for you. Isn't it 1,000 years? Chen Yonzui said speechlessly. That's not a restriction I set. Kunlun Jing said confidently, the sky is about to collapse, what does it have to do with me? Go blame the sky. How did Mui repair the sky? Chen Yonzui said indignantly, a shoddy job, right? It's not a quality problem, but because the celestial spheres are converging, and the human world and the fairy world are separated, Kunlun Jing just said a few words, then stopped. In short, now you know the reason but you can't do anything about it, you might as well think about how to remedy it. How else can it be remedied? Chen Yonzui complained, how else should I turn around and go back, tell the immortal ancestor everything, and ask him to help find a way to repair the sky? Okay. Kunlun Jing snorted, whether he can repair the sky is another matter for now, anyway, you'll definitely not be able to protect me, so you can say goodbye to your peerless talents such as Tao Heart and Born Swordbone. Chen Yonzui. The mood at this moment can only be summed up by a common plant. For that Kunlun Mirror, a supreme elder of a cultivation sect is undoubtedly more difficult to control than a multifaceted spy. What can it do if he changes his mind and doesn't want to save the world? What it told Chen Yonzui was that the 6 pieces of the heaven-fixing stone fragments could be gathered together to repair the cracks in the sky and save the world. But what it didn't tell Chen Yonzui was that if he only got 1 piece of the heaven-fixing stone fragment, although it was not enough to repair the sky, it was more than enough to protect the land of a state. The heaven-fixing stone fragments were originally a sealed barrier-like wonder with around close to the Great Doe. If the supreme elders of these cultivation sects knew the truth about the destruction of the world, would they choose to take the trouble to collect the fragments and save the world, or would they choose to use the only fragment to protect their own sect first? The Kunlun Mirror neither knew nor wanted to know. The only thing it knew was that except for Chen Yonzui, whose fate was outside this world, no one else could prevent the already determined destruction. Hey, I was just joking. Chen Yonzui said embarrassedly, how could I hand you over, a Jin? You are my life-saving magic weapon. Do you need me to show a sense of humor about your joke? Kunlun Jing said dryly, ha ha ha. Let's think about it in the long run. Chen Yonzui immediately made amends, I must get this fragment of the sky repairing stone from Kunlun Tai King Sect. Chapter 210. The moon in the sky and the moon in the water, how can it defy junior sister Zhu? After a brief report to the head of Ziwi sect, Qiu Chang's Haiyan flew away from Kunlun Tai and Zhu and returned to Jinlan Cave. The junior brothers and sisters who had been waiting here for a long time naturally congratulated and celebrated again, and the scene was very lively. Qiu Chang's Haiyan responded one by one, and suddenly noticed that there seemed to be one person missing. Where is junior brother Guan? Junior brother Guan went out for training. 4th junior brother Yamzachua replied. Qiu Chang's Haiyan was surprised to hear this. Going out for training is definitely not to do the mission of the sect. Although Yuanzhen is not the chief disciple, the resources for cultivation are similar to those of ordinary inner disciples, and are many times richer than those of outer disciples. It is definitely enough for his own cultivation, and there is no need to covet the reward for the mission. In other words, because I was promoted to the chief disciple, I felt that my cultivation progress was too backward, and I had to go out to visit famous mountains and rivers and search for adventures that could quickly upgrade, right? Thinking of this, Qiu Chang's Haiyan looked at Zhu Yinglyan with a strange look. Speaking of people who would do such a thing, Yuanzhen's personality is naturally no problem, but junior sister Zhu is more likely to do this. Now I am the chief of the foundation building realm, The first person onto the golden elixir. Why does junior sisters you seem to have no reaction? Doesn't she love me anymore? Facing Qiu Chang's slightly puzzled eyes, Zhu Yingyan just smiled faintly and said nothing. After the junior brothers and sisters left, Zhu Yingyan invited, "Senior brother, are you willing to walk with me?" Oh. Qiu Chang didn't understand why, so he agreed directly. The two left the cave and strolled leisurely on the Jinling mountain road. Several cranes flew by, and the clear crane cries echoed in the clouds in the valley. "Recently, I've been thinking about a problem," Zhu Yingyan suddenly said. "What difficulties have you encountered in your cultivation?" Qiu Chang thought that the opportunity to brush the synchronization value had come again, and immediately smiled and said, "I can solve the doubts for junior sister. It's the problem of the moon in the sky and the moon in the water that you mentioned last time," Zhu Yingyan said. Qiu Chang. He turned his eyes secretly, but found that there were no junior brothers and sisters around. "I have to find a way to escape. I've already thought of the answer. Do you want to hear it, brother?" Zhu Yingyan continued to ask. "I want to hear it." Qiu Chang remained calm on the surface, but he was panicking inside. No matter which one is true, the moon in the sky or the moon in the water. Zhu Yingyan stretched out her fair and slender fingers and slowly clenched her small fist. "I want them all." Qiu Chang. Even though he was knowledgeable and experienced, he was almost defeated by the outrageous answer of his junior sister. However, he quickly came back to his senses, quickly restrained the strange color on his face, and forced a smile. "Junior sister, why are you so greedy?" "But, I want to hear nice lies. I also want to hear the unpleasant truth." Zhu Yingyan's voice was not loud, but his tone was extremely firm, and there was a flame of persistence in his eyes. Qiu Chang was very familiar with that kind of fire. It was the strong emotion that seemed to burn in the pupils of junior sister's Yu every time she chased him hard. It was like the infinitely shining and hot sun, almost irradiating him to sweat. "As long as I can get the real moon, whether it is the moon in the sky or the moon in the water, it is in my palm." Zhu Yingyan turned his head and stared at Qiu Chang seriously. "Don't you think so, senior brother?" "There is a little truth in that." Qiu Chang felt that cold sweat was coming out on his back. "Oh, by the way, today's breathing and refining exercises have not been done yet. Junior sister, let me leave first." He turned around and left in a hurry. Zhu Yingyan turned around gracefully and looked at his bag quietly. When Qiu Chang disappeared at the end of the corner of the mountain road, she took a half step back, barely holding onto the rock wall, and felt her legs and feet were a little weak. The "I want it all just now" almost exhausted all her courage. You have to know that in this world, the concept of civilian women is still traditional and reserved, and the monks are less bound by etiquette, but their thinking habits are no exception. The direct attack she launched against Qiu Chang just now was already an extremely unorthodox behavior in the eyes of the world. Even Zhu Yingyan herself felt extremely embarrassed and ashamed when she recalled it now. But, it was the answer she decided to say after careful consideration. Whether it was out of stubbornness and self-esteem, or out of the strong throbbing desire to express something to her senior brother that she herself was not sure of, Zhu Yingyan felt that she could not continue to remain silent and procrastinate on this topic. Of course, the back of her senior brother who fled in panic at the end also brought her great encouragement and pleasure. "Anyway, senior brother, I won this time." Junior sisters you are secretly very happy, and Qiu Chang fled all the way back to the cave, and his heart was already in doubt. No way, has my true identity been discovered by her? The moon in the sky and the moon in the water both want it. Doesn't that mean Qiu Chang and Chen Yonzhui both want it? Damn it, when did I reveal my flaw? It must be the broken mirror that gave away the secret. I don't think she meant that. Kunlun Mirror said weakly, "Junior sisters you, maybe she just wanted to say that whether you like her or not, she won't force you, and will only patiently play the role of Taoist partner in the future." "That makes sense, I agree with your lawyer." Kingping Sword echoed. "How do you understand so much?" Qiu Chang asked suspiciously. "The moon in the sky refers to your true heart. The moon in the water refers to your pretended kindness." Kingping Sword said eloquently, "As long as she gets you, no matter you're polite to her on the surface or you truly loved her, you can't escape her clutches. After all, you can't find another Taoist partner." "No." Kunlun Mirror objected, "I think it should mean this. Whether you like her now or not, she is confident that you will fall in love with her in the end." "No, no." Qiu Changtai also objected, is there a possibility that Junior Sisters Yu actually doesn't have any hidden intentions? Just like when I pretended to test her about the moon in the sky and the moon in the water, I actually didn't think about the real answer myself. She just couldn't think of how to answer, so she deliberately said something nonsense to prove that she was not stumped by my question. Kunlun Mirror. Kingping Sword. Your guess is not impossible, but even a fool can see that Junior Sisters Yu must be interested in you, right? Of course I know that she is interested in me. After all, my personal charm is so strong. Qiu Changtai said angrily, then the problem is, I'm not Qiu Changtai now. I can't wear this Qiu Changtai mask to win the heart of Junior Sisters Yu, right? What if she finds out my true identity after I take off the mask? Won't she hunt me down to the ends of the earth? You're right, actually. Kunlun Jin felt extremely relieved. This guy finally realized that it was wrong to wear a mask to deceive the girl's feelings. So she was about to praise the other party and put forward her own opinions, but she heard Kingping Jian say again, why don't you just not be discovered? When you get the fragment of the booty and stone, you can just throw away Qiu Changtai's mask. Zhu Yingyan doesn't know the relationship between Chen Yunzui and Qiu Changtai. Can she still hunt you down for your true identity? What you said makes some sense. Qiu Changtai pondered, well, Jin? Did you want to say something just now? No, nothing. Chapter 211 Love Rival is not love rival. Luo Yan has always believed that if Shilili had not existed, life at Yu King Temple would be much better. He could calmly breathe and refine his ki, freely learn the knowledge of formations, leisurely brush up the favorability of his master, and quietly find out the location of the fragment of the sky-making stone, most likely in the hands of the immortals sitting in Yu King Temple. He has sufficient experience in this regard. Instead of playing around with Mishi every day, little junior brother, hand me the spiritual herd quickly. Shilili urged. Luo Yan could only pick up the basket, grab a handful of 9-section calamus from it, and hand it over. Good boy, good boy. Shilili touched the beautiful fur of the 9-color deer while feeding, his eyes full of love for the furry. The 9-color deer chewed the spiritual herd calmly, then slowly raised his head and cast a vicissitudes of life and helpless look at Luo Yan. Just a look, Luo Yan understood that the 9-color deer did not enjoy the touch of Mishi. Instead, it was forced to open for business. Sister, he said tentatively, even if the 9-colored deer is a spiritual animal raised in the temple, it is also a spiritual animal with its own dignity. You are petting it like a cat. Will it feel ashamed? Shut up, little junior brother. Shilili said unhappily, and then asked with a smile, it likes me, right, little deer? The 9-colored deer stared at the spiritual herbs in her hand, as if making an extremely difficult decision, and finally nodded. Luo Yan also sighed in his heart. Life is difficult, let alone deer. After feeding the 9-colored deer, the two found an open space by the clear stream. Luo Yan set up the grill and took out the 3-legged furnace and placed it underneath. The 3-legged furnace was originally a magic weapon used by alchemists to stimulate flames. Why is it used for barbecue? Because Mishi is rich. Shilili took out a large piece of beef, cut it carefully with a flying sword, and then began to apply sea salt and other seasonings to marinate it again. Since her main Kigome training had changed to the secret records of the 5 dimensions, Mishi had also recently changed her flying sword. The new flying sword was called Moonfall, a 10th order wood flying sword with a Taoist seal on it. I don't know, but the few times Luo Yan remembered using it, Mishi used it to cut meat. If Moonfall had a sword spirit, she would have died of anger. Although Shilili had no experience in swordsmanship, she had cooked too much since she came back from Gaikyu, and now she had mastered knife skills. With just a few strokes, she cut the marinated beef into countless thin slices. Then she put it on the iron rack and grilled it skillfully. As the aroma of the oil slowly dissipated, Luo Yan had to admit that Mishi was not without merit. At least her barbecue skills were indeed unique. However, the location for the picnic was still so strange. Although the scenery here was beautiful, it was the place where the sect planted spiritual herbs and raised spiritual beasts. I can only say that Mishi is extremely powerful, and I, Luo Yan, am just a small follower, and I can't make any decisions. After the barbecue, the two began to eat. Shilili ate with relish, her mouth full of oil. Luo Yan took a small skewer and ate it slowly, secretly circulating the true essence of Danton to refine the turbid air in the stomach. The reason why immortals practice fasting is not to save food expenses, but to avoid taking in turbid air. Birds and beasts eat grains, which absorb turbid air from underground. The more they eat, the more turbid air in their bodies, and people will begin to age and shorten their lifespan. Shiluli, who is greedy for food and would rather work hard to refine turbid air and eat and drink, is really a weirdo among cultivators. Just when he was eating happily, he suddenly saw a sword light coming from a distance, and a Taoist in a green robe descended. Junior sister Shi. The man greeted, and junior brother Luo, you are so elegant, enjoying the secular life here. Luo Yan looked carefully and recognized that the Taoist was the son of the head of Yu King Temple Xuandu, whose surname was Jian and whose given name was Zeng. He clasped his fists and saluted, while Shiluli was a little unhappy and just ate meat. Seeing that Shiluli didn't want to pay attention to him, Xianzeng started chatting with Luo Yan. I heard that junior brother Luo inherited the formation of Elder Shiding. Even other caves in the East China Sea praised junior brother's professional ability. Some people gave him the nickname Little Dingzhenren. Tiangong Fan can be said to have a successor. Luo Yan was a little embarrassed when he heard this. What does Little Dingzhenren mean? I'm not the son of Elder Shiding. Brother Tian, you are too polite. He bowed and said modestly, junior brother Luo only has a superficial understanding of battle formations, which is far from the level of my master. I'm really unworthy at the praise from other Taoist friends. No, I think there will be a place for junior brother Luo in Yu King Temple in the future. Xianzeng smiled and talked freely. Seeing that Shiluli was not interested at all, he secretly winked at Luo Yan, meaning let's talk over there. Luo Yan immediately pretended not to see it. I was stupid to follow you. When we get to the place where there is no one, you will use the sword to kill my love rival. Where can I go for help? Seeing that he didn't seem to understand, Xianzeng started to talk about the tendencies of the various factions in Yu King Temple, the traditional friendship between the headmaster and Tiangong Fan, and Shiluli rolled her eyes and simply picked up the skewer and said to Luo Yan, you guys chat slowly, I'll leave first. When Mishi left, Xianzeng immediately showed his true colors, grabbed Luo Yan's arm earnestly, and said sadly, good junior brother, please save me. Luo Yan pulled his arm away calmly and said, senior brother Tian, you are joking, how can I save you? You just need to become a Taoist partner with Shiluli, Xianzeng said quickly. Luo Yan. Our sect has been on good terms with all the major factions in the temple for generations. Xianzeng sighed helplessly, now that Tiangong Fan is in its heyday, my father intends to let your sister and I have a good relationship, and it would be best if we could become relatives with Tiangong Fan. Luo Yan was silent for a long time and asked, brother Tian is unwilling? Brother Luo. Xianzeng smiled bitterly, if it were you, would you be willing to marry a female cultivator who cannot be beaten or scolded, spends money like water, bullies and causes trouble everywhere, and sneaks out of Yu King Temple every now and then to disturb your quiet practice and cause trouble for you? Luo Yan. Every word of brother Tian. They all touched my heart. I, Luo Yan, have been a junior brother for so many years, and I thought that no one knew the sorrow in my heart. I didn't expect that brother Tian would be my soulmate. Ahem. He cleared his throat and said awkwardly, actually, my senior sister is not what you imagined. She is gentle, considerate, virtuous and kind most of the time. Brother Luo, do you dare to swear on your blue heart? Xianzeng said mercilessly. Luo Yan was immediately speechless. If you and your sister become a Taoist couple, my father will not force me to find Shiluli. Xianzeng paced back and forth, and said excitedly, for you, brother Luo, it means that you have changed from the beloved disciple of Elder Shiding to his son-in-law, and it will be a natural thing for you to take over Tiangong workshop in the future. And it can be regarded as helping me once, and I owe you a favor, isn't it beautiful? Luo Yan smiled awkwardly, thinking that you would rather not be the heir of Tiangong workshop than to be a Taoist couple with Shiluli. Doesn't that explain the problem? I have been her junior brother for so many years, even if you brag about marrying her, how can you deceive me? It's outrageous. Chapter 212 Elder Shiding's affirmation. After Xianzeng left, Shiluli came back and asked suspiciously, what did that person say to you? He said that my sister is kind, but unfortunately she has no feelings for him, so he has given up. Luo Yan tried to tell him in a tactful way that the headmaster's son has no interest in you. Humph. Shiluli crossed his arms, he is still self-aware, but why doesn't the headmaster of Xuandu have any interest in you? Luo Yan was sweating coldly when he heard it. People just want to marry you, and you start to slander your elders? I dare not think about what you dare to do next. I can only say that Xianzeng does not want to be involved, which is indeed reasonable. No more eating, it's really a bummer. Shiluli waved his hand and left, junior brother, clean up the stall. Miss Shi went back directly, and Luo Yan could only pack up silently, then pulled out the Toho sword and escaped. Back to Tiangong workshop, it was time for Elder Shiding to check the homework. The topic this time is 9-bend chain array, which requires 9 arrays to be laid out at the same time, and the arrays are interconnected. It is known as the strongest array in the foundation building realm. Unless the person entering the array also understands the way of arrays, or breaks all 9 arrays at once with overwhelming strength, otherwise every time an array is destroyed, the remaining 8 arrays will connect with the key and slowly restore the array, just like a centipede, dead but not stiff. Luo Yan thought carefully for a moment, and suddenly realized that this 9-bend chain array is not a simplified version of the ancient Jiri Zhao's famous array 9-bend yellow river array. He pondered for a moment, then directly swung his robe sleeves and hit the array flat into the ground. Seeing that he was so bold and started without careful planning, Elder Shiding felt a little dissatisfied and disappointed. However, when Luo Yan laid the 15th array, Elder Shiding suddenly saw the beauty of it, and couldn't help but widen his eyes and was surprised. Good, you are worthy of being my direct disciple who can inherit my mantle. Your attainments in the art of formations have reached such a profound level. Most of the formations below the golden core stage are probably not difficult for him. When Luo Yan laid the 9-bend linked formation in one breath, Elder Shiding could no longer hide the joy on his face, and said with a smile, "Good. Luo Yan, with your current attainments in formations, before you form a pill, your master has nothing to teach you." He took out a jade slip from his sleeve, threw it to Luo Yan and said, "Here are all the formations suitable for the foundation establishment stage. Later on, you just need to concentrate on breathing and refining ki, and just take the spare time to learn them." "Thank you, master." Luo Yan carefully put away the jade slip. Seeing that Elder Shiding was in a good mood, he knew that this was the best time, and said, "Master, my disciple had an epiphany a few days ago, and has entered the transformation palace stage." "Oh?" Elder Shiding's eyes lit up, and he grabbed his wrist and explored it with his spiritual sense. Arjun used an illusion to disguise Luo Yan's purple mansion, which was almost about to become a jade mansion, as if he had just entered the transformation mansion stage. Elder Shiding's spiritual consciousness changed and he was immediately overjoyed. It's really the transformation mansion stage. Great. Master originally wanted to wait for 10 years, but now it seems unnecessary. Luo Yan breathed a sigh of relief. Seeing that Master had no doubts at all and even seemed to have made plans, he smiled and said, "Just let Master arrange it. Come on, you King Temple has any adventures, treasures, and secret realms that can accelerate the transformation mansion, all of them will be thrown at me without any hesitation. You don't have to be anxious." Elder Shiding said with a smile, "Master said at the beginning that you should seize the time to break through your cultivation. It's probably because the headmaster also took a fancy to Lily and wanted to marry our Tiangong Fang. Now that you have also entered the transformation mansion stage, at least you have a chance to compete in terms of status." Luo Yan. "Wait, Master, you said originally planned to wait for me for 10 years, not to prepare for me to accelerate the transformation mansion, but to plan to marry Miss Shi to me." In the memory, he suddenly remembered what Elder Shiding said last time, and he couldn't help but start to complain in his heart. However, although the master is optimistic about you, the key is Lily's own feelings. Elder Shiding nodded. "At least now it seems that no one can compete with you, even the son of the headmaster. Lily doesn't have a very good impression of him." Luo Yan thought quickly for a moment, and immediately said, "Master, I met Brother Tian before, and he quietly told me that he didn't have that intention towards my sister. If that's the case, then it's great." Elder Shiding immediately clapped his hands and smiled kindly. "Luo Yan, the master treats you as his own son. Respect the master as a father. I also treat the master as a father." Luo Yan immediately said tactfully, and sighed in his heart. Thinking about it carefully, Miss Shi also has many advantages, such as being cute. But for some reason, it seems that not many male monks like her. Senior Brother Tian, the son of the headmaster, didn't want to have anything to do with her at all, and the master, Elder Shiding, tried every means to force her to him, as if he was worried that no one would want her in the future. Luo Yan's thoughts turned slightly, and relying on his talent of understanding everything at once, he immediately figured out the key. This world of cultivation is different from the modern Earth before the crossing. After all, it is still a world of ancient culture. In the modern Earth, as long as a girl is beautiful, she can win a lot of licking dogs to pursue her. But here, the emphasis is on marrying a virtuous wife. If a woman has nothing but beauty, she will be despised. So, does she really have any advantages besides beauty? Well, Luo Yan still didn't get the answer until he left Elder Shidin, who was full of relief, and returned to his room. Little junior brother. The door was violently knocked open from the outside again, and Shilili ran in excitedly, hugged his arm and acted coquettishly, "Help me, help me, help me, help me." Well, being willing to give benefits is an advantage. Luo Yan pulled his arm away calmly and asked, "You want to ask about the method of skipping the marrow cleansing again?" "Yes." Shilili showed a satisfied look of, "You are worthy at being my junior brother. The bodybuilding secret technique is too tiring." Luo Yan resisted the urge to hit her and said with a fake smile, "Sister, with the King Jing Yuan Ki pill I gave you, it only takes a few years. I don't want to wait for a few years." Shilili sat down beside his bed and made a very excessive request in a serious manner, "Is there a way to complete the marrow cleansing today?" "No." Luo Yan pretended to be helpless, thinking that there is, such as the blood pool in the Shushan locking demon tower. "But you can't go." He secretly complained in his heart, and the helpless expression on his face was done perfectly, as if he was dealing with a daughter who said, "Dad, I want the moon in the sky." But Shilili didn't know why, and suddenly stood up and said excitedly, "You are lying to me again. There must be something wrong, right?" "No, how could I lie? You hesitated when you spoke just now." "How could there be hesitation?" Luo Yan immediately denied. "It was obvious that I didn't think about it, so you don't deny the fact that you lied to me, right?" Shilili said sharply. "Luo Yan. The last advantage. Being extremely smart in places where you shouldn't be smart. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Mundo Fanfic Novelers, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelers. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 213. Innocent and Unbearable Backstab. Speak, tell the truth. Sister, I really don't know, hurry up and tell me. After being ravaged by Mishi, Luo Yan could only think of a way to reveal some less critical information in an ambiguous way. I heard that Tai King focuses on refining Qi, Shang King practices sword techniques, and Yu King enters the Tao through a side door. The Shang King school of Shushan is mainly engaged in sword cultivation, so they look at the physique of the disciples. I heard that there seems to be a secret method for marrow washing. He said it vaguely, but Mishi's eyes lit up. Yes, Shushan. As the eldest daughter of Tiangong Fang, she naturally knew nothing about Shushan. As the front line of the ancient fight against the demons, Shushan once had the largest material reserves of the human race. I don't know how many rare treasures were sealed in the Yuan cave under Livenping. Considering that the marrow washing stage usually only lasts for 10 years, most cultivators will choose to practice on their own, so there is a high probability that there are still many magic weapons or elixirs that can accelerate the marrow washing. Shilili immediately turned around and left, intending to go to Welder Shiding to whack like a spoiled child, asking him to use his connections to ask Shushan for a replacement. Luo Yan was relieved to see that Mishi was finally deceived. Who would have thought that Shilili ran to the door and suddenly turned around for some reason, just in time to see Luo Yan's relieved expression. Unable to help herself, she showed a vigilant expression like a little fox. "Junior brother." "What's wrong, senior sister?" "You go with me." Shilili came over and held his hand without saying anything. This was the first time Luo Yan held Shilili's hand. No, in fact, he had held it often, but every time it was like the first time. Shilili's little hand was soft and smooth, and it was also wonderfully warm, which made him feel like he wanted to treasure it. In a daze, he remembered the school days before he traveled through time, when he read books every day in the environment of exam-oriented education and stuffed all his youthful hormones into the sea of questions. If only there was a young and beautiful girl like this, who would hold my hand and run across the school playground under the envious gazes of other students. Staring. Luo Yan suddenly came to his senses and saw his fellow students passing by, staring at the two of them in astonishment. "Wait, senior sister." He hurriedly tried to break free. "It's too embarrassing to hold hands like this in public." He wanted to say it's too damaging to your reputation, but he knew in his brain that Mishi, who was fearless, didn't care about her reputation at all. Hectares. "You really want to escape?" Shilili immediately turned around and glared at him. "No way. Luo Yan. It's over. If this goes on, the news that I, Luo Yan, am being kept by the rich woman, she will probably spread throughout the Yu King temple." Rushing to the residence of Elder Shiding, Shilili was about to speak, but was interrupted by Elder Shiding. "Luli, pay attention to the impact outside." He looked at the two people holding hands and sighed. It doesn't matter. Shirley said nonchalantly, it's better for them to spread rumors. At least the headmaster won't think of bringing me and his son together. Luo Yan laughed in his heart. It turned out that this young lady was using me as a shield. Alas. Elder Shiding continued to sigh, but didn't say anything. After all, Luo Yan was his most recognized disciple. What crooked idea do you have to bring your junior brother here in a hurry? Father. Shirley smiled sweetly and hugged his old father's arm. I heard from my junior brother that Shushan has a magic weapon and elixir that can speed up marrow washing, right? What do you want that thing for? Elder Shiding looked confused. Marrow washing, isn't it just a matter of 10 years of practice? Do you still need external objects to help speed it up? Father Shirley began to act like a spoiled child. Look, now in Tiangong workshop, only my daughter and my junior brother are at the marrow cleansing stage. If my junior brother cultivates faster and surpasses me, how can my daughter be a good senior sister? Father, please be considerate of my daughter. Elder Shiding frowned and looked at Luo Yan. Luo Yan could only smile awkwardly, thinking that Mishi's concerns were indeed correct. I had actually surpassed her a long time ago. Okay. Even a hypocritical person like Luo Yan couldn't resist Shirley's full set of coquettish attacks. How could Elder Shiding, an old father, hold on? Soon he had no choice but to surrender. Father will help you ask. Thank you, Father. Shirley was delighted, and hurriedly poured tea and water for her father, kneading his shoulders and back. Looking at the harmonious appearance of the father and daughter, Luo Yan quietly winked at Elder Shiding, and then turned around and left calmly. Ask yourself, he does have a certain good impression of Shirley. But it is limited to a good impression. Shirley's innocence is built on the care and love of everyone in Tiangong Fang, which also makes Mishi develop a certain dependent thinking. When encountering any problem, she either thinks of asking for help from her junior brother, or her father, or her senior brothers and sisters. On the positive side, this is conducive to quickly establishing a bond with everyone. The core of the strong family atmosphere of Tiangong Fang comes from Shirley, the apple of everyone's eye. However, for Luo Yan alone, such a bond is too much. He is willing to form a bond in the sect, provided that such a bond can help him further penetrate the sect and lay a sufficient foundation for inquiring and seeking the fragments of the sky-making stone. But the bond is too deep, and when the time comes to slash the root of love with a sword, it will definitely be bloody. As an elegant multifaceted spy, Luo Yan imagined that he could play with everyone at will, and then leave after achieving his goal, leaving only a mysterious and beautiful legend, instead of breaking Mishi's heart into several pieces after his true identity was exposed, washing her face with tears, and turning her hair white overnight. Zhu Yingyan is strong-willed by nature, and Nzisu was also soft on the outside but strong on the inside. Only Shirley is too soft on the inside. If she finds out that she has been betrayed, Shirley will probably be the most hurt. Therefore, the intimacy with Mishi also needs to be controlled at a relatively measured level. Brother Luo. Someone suddenly called him from behind. Luo Yan turned around and saw Tianzhen waving at him from a distance. What's wrong, Brother Tian? It's like this, my father wants to see you. Tianzhen said with a smile. Luo Yan immediately showed a vigilant expression. Don't worry. Tianzhen patted his shoulder. I don't want to hit you, but to see what kind of outstanding talent shouting Shenren can make Shi Jinwei fall in love with him. Luo Yan breathed a sigh of relief when he heard it, and it was true after thinking carefully. The reason why the head of Xuandu wanted to match his son with Shilili was to further win over Tiangong Fang. Now Luo Yan was favored by Shilili and valued by Elder Shiding. If he was angry with Luo Yan because his son had no chance, wouldn't it be putting the cart before the horse? It would be better to call someone over openly to show respect and encouragement, so as to show the head of the sect's temperament and magnanimity. Chapter 214. 5 Gears converging to the origin cave. The head of Yu King Temple, Xuandu sect master, was a middle-aged man in a white robe with an elegant demeanor. If Luo Yan had not known his identity long ago, he would have immediately thought that he was some great scholar, an important official at the imperial court, or a prefect. Sit down, Xuandu sect master said kindly. Luo Yan then sat down on the cushion respectfully. You made your information? Xuandu headmaster asked gently. I heard from Elder Shiding that you have been promoted to the water level. My lord. Luo Yan said solemnly, I'm indeed a major information. I was fortunate to be promoted to Shishyi during the trip to the palace, and I had an adventure on the Sanu treasure ship and entered the Watfu. You don't need to add my lord before speaking. Xuandu headmaster laughed and looked at his son Tianzing, who was standing beside him. Luoyan is cautious and polite. You are lazy and rude. When will you be able to learn from his thoughtfulness and courtesy? Tianzing immediately understood the meaning of the string music and smiled. I must learn well from junior brother Luo. Luoyan smiled, knowing that this was the headmaster of Xuandu, hinting at his closeness. His son couldn't marry Xi, so it would be good for him to get along with Luoyan more. Are you having any difficulties recently? Xuandu headmaster continued to ask. Luoyan thought that the highlight was come in, and he was going to give me benefits. He said with embarrassment, there is no other difficulty, but I am worried that my lifespan is too short and it is difficult to upgrade the grade of the golden elixir. To the ears of Xuandu master and Tianzin, it seemed very reasonable. Luoyan entered the sect at the age of 20, and had a series of adventures within 10 years, jumping into the Wafu stage, which was already as fast as it could be. If you calculate carefully, when he is 190 years old, he can still practice for 160 years, and 40 years away from forming a high-quality golden elixir. Who would be willing to accept this if he could not enter because of lack of opportunity, just because of this last step? After pondering for a long time, Xuandu master slowly said, the temple has always focused on supporting and cultivating outstanding disciples. A few days ago, there were about 3 spoons of surplus of the golden mercury elixir liquid traded with Shushan. Luoyan almost vomited blood when he heard this. I have already drunk the golden mercury elixir. Seeing that Luoyan didn't react, Tianzin thought that he didn't know what it was, so he explained. This golden mercury elixir is a famous and precious elixir of the ancient human race. 1 spoonful is probably equivalent to a 60-year cultivation of the Wafu. This medicine is extremely complicated to refine. It requires a variety of rare minerals, spiritual medicines, and even materials from monsters. Therefore, in the past, Shushan provided the raw materials, we were responsible for refining, and finally shared the output equally. I see. Luoyan could only force a smile. Seeing that his face was rather perfunctory, Xuandu sect master couldn't help but see the clues, thinking to himself that this junior, could it be that he has already drunk it? Well, Tiangong Fan has a wide network of people. It is not surprising to say that Elder Shiding has already obtained golden mercury elixir for him. In addition to the golden mercury elixir, Xuandu sect master continued to smile, there is also that 5 Yuan cave to choose. 5 Yuan cave? Luoyan asked curiously. It is a cave located overseas. Tianzin explained, the specific location needs to be kept secret, and it is currently only in the hands of our King Temple. There is a Yuan vein deep in the cave. Breathing on it can absorb Yuan spiritual energy, which has the miraculous effect of filling in the gaps. Yuan spiritual energy. Luoyan immediately thought about it in his memory. The so-called Yuan spiritual energy should be the spiritual energy unique to the end of the dragon vein. The dragon vein of the Shenzhou continent sits east and faces west. Its head originates from the Kunlun Mountains and its tail ends in the depths of the East China Sea. The spiritual energy produced at the end of the dragon vein is called Yuan spiritual energy. According to the records in the classics, it is in line with the way of the acquired 5 elements and has the effect of putting death and then rebirth. It can revive the dead, flesh bones, make old women give birth, and make dead trees sprout. It is the most rare kind of wonder in the world. Turning the flawed purple mansion into a jade mansion is naturally within the scope of filling in the gaps. The only problem is that this thing is too rare, so rare that there are only a few books that record it. If Luoyan hadn't been so knowledgeable, he might not have remembered it. If that's the case, he asked carefully, why have you never heard of it in the temple? Because the 5 converging to the origin cave is extremely dangerous, few people have set foot in it, so naturally not many people know about it. The head of Xuandu said seriously, King Temple can approve you to explore it, but there are many risks involved. Elder Shiding needs to explain it to you before you decide whether to go. Luoyan said goodbye to the head of Xuandu, and returned to Tiangong workshop with a heavy heart. He saw Shilili talking to Elder Shiding. In short, during the timing IQ, it was all up to me to take care of my junior brother. Miss She puffed out her chest, proud like a peacock, that's when I learned my cooking skills. Okay. Elder Shiding was almost tamed into a yes man who could only praise. He turned to look at Luoyan who had returned, what's the matter? It's like this. Luoyan glanced at Miss Shi and asked, I wonder if Master has ever heard of the 5 converging to the origin cave. Did the abbot tell you? Elder Shiding frowned, that's not a good place. What's the 5 converging to the origin cave? Shilili asked curiously. This cave is located under the deep sea, winding and deep. Elder Sheeding explained, 9 out of 10 ordinary cultivators who enter it will never return. More than 90% loss rate. Luoyan said with a smack of his lips, it's so dangerous, is there any demon inside? That's not the case. Elder Sheeding sighed, it's just winding and deep. Moreover, the magnetic field inside is disordered, and most of the pathfinding magic tools will be ineffective, causing many cultivators to lose their direction after entering and be trapped inside. How deep is the cave? Shilui asked curiously. If converted into distance, it is at least more than 10,000 miles. Elder Sheeding replied. Luoyan's heart was shocked. 10,000 miles? The radius of the Earth before the crossing was only 12,000 miles, but here we are talking about the effective length of the cave, not a straight line, so it is probably an extremely deep-sea cave. If it were your 4th senior brother, I would definitely not let him go. Elder Sheeding changed the subject and said, but Luoyan, you do have corresponding advantages. What advantages? Luoyan was about to speak, but heard Shilui ask coquettishly, Father, don't keep me in suspense, tell me quickly. Luoyan has a good memory. Elder Sheeding said with a smile, although the 5 gears converging to the origin cave is deep and tortuous, it is not like the Fire Yuan cave in Shushan, which changes the terrain from time to time and reshapes the way back. As long as you can remember the way you came, you can return safely by the same route. I see. Luoyan was about to speak, but heard Shilui say first, then I want my junior brother to take me to play. That won't do. Elder Sheeding's face suddenly changed, and he said sternly, you are still in the marrow washing stage, and you haven't entered the transformation palace yet. What are you going to the 5 gears converging to the origin cave for? I'm worried about my junior brother going alone. Shilui changed his words and said, it's both to protect him and to memorize the terrain in advance so that I can go there after I enter the transformation palace. Absolutely not. Luoyan sighed, and then he heard Elder Sheeding's firm words, his face turning pale. Chapter 215 Why are there so many questions? The Wukikayuan cave is located under the deep sea. Since the water pressure is too high at depths, you need to carry a waterproof magic weapon. 3rd senior sister Liang Guo prepared a water sealing seal for me, so there should be no problem in this regard. The magnetic field in the cave is strong, which can not only destroy any wayfinding magic weapon, but also interfere with the cultivator's sense of direction, making people unable to distinguish between east, west, south, north, up, down, left, and right. This is the main reason why cultivators are trapped and missing in it. Master prepared a mad jade slip left by my predecessors for me, and with the Kunlun mirror responsible for recording the route and correcting the direction, there is no problem. It takes at least 2 months to reach the nearest Kayuanki channel from the entrance. Ordinary people who were in the Dark Sea cave environment for a long time can easily be tortured to the point of shaking their Taoism and losing their minds. But I am not an ordinary person. I have a Jing and Kingpin to chat with me. There are no dangerous creatures in the cave, but intermittent earthquakes or seabed hot currents may occur. It's okay. The probability of it happening is too small, and once it happens, it is an unavoidable natural disaster. We can only adapt to the situation. Shilui somehow persuaded Elder Sheeding to let her go with me. What should I do? Luoyan once again thought about the plan for this trip to the 5 gears to the origin cave, and basically prepared contingency plans for all risk points, except for Shilui's intrusion. Why does this young lady always follow me? Could it be that she really likes me? I have a hunch. Shilui said seriously, in the 5 gears to the origin cave, there is an opportunity for me to skip the marrow washing and enter the transformation palace. Senior sister, did you use your metaphysical ritual again? Luoyan asked lazily. Of course. Shilui said confidently, in short, this time I will definitely be able to directly cleanse my marrow successfully. You said the same thing last time you went to the 3 Islands treasure ship secret realm. Luoyan deliberately reminded her, in the end, you got a bodybuilding secret technique that you were too lazy to use. That was an accident. An accident. Shilui was furious, and her face was a little red. I will ignore you. You don't understand the importance of the person loved by God at all. It's useless to tell you. Humph! She turned around to express her dissatisfaction, and at the same time, she put her hands together in front of her chest and shook them vigorously, and began to mutter something difficult to understand like heaven spirit and earth spirit. Luoyan didn't care about her either. Although this young lady always liked to pester him, at least she wouldn't deliberately make trouble at the critical moment. Considering that it would take at least 2 months to stay in the 5 Yuan cave, there is also a risk of a decline in the synchronization rate. Once the synchronization rate drops, the characteristic of one hearing, 1,000 understandings will decrease, so this time I took Shiluli with me, and I would just use her to brush the synchronization value. Thinking of this, her addition turned out to be a good thing. Luo Yan quickly convinced himself, and then continued to think and consider. The two are now in a shuttle-shaped magic weapon, which was controlled by a Yuning elder in the temple. The reason for being locked in the magic weapon for a long journey was to prevent the location of the 5 Yuan cave from being revealed. This place was located in the Far East Sea, which was too far away from the Pengliu King temple. It was impossible to send people to guard it for a long time, and it could not be leaked to other sects, so it could only be kept strictly confidential. Finally, the shuttle-shaped magic weapon stopped and released Luo Yan and Shiluli. Be careful after you went to the cave. The elder who controlled the magic weapon warned, if you find something wrong, it is better to give up and retrieve it in time than to take the risk of going deeper. Thank you for your advice, senior. Luo Yan saluted, and Shiluli also saluted quickly. I will come here again to pick you up in 2 months. The elder continued, if you don't show up within 3 days, the temple will think you died in there. This is the eastern edge of the East China Sea. With your abilities, it is basically impossible to return to Pengliu from here, so don't miss the time. Remember, 2 months. After saying that, he slapped the shuttle-shaped magic weapon with his backhand, and the whole person turned into a black stream of light and disappeared into the distant skyline. Let's go. After watching the elder leave, Luo Yan sighed and said to Shiluli. Okay. Shiluli became excited. Do you remember everything I told you on the way here? Luo Yan emphasized again. I know, I will listen to you, little junior brother. Shiluli smiled like a flower. Luo Yan sighed again in his heart. He guessed why Elder Shiding allowed Miss Shi to follow. If Shiluli wanted to come here alone, Elder Shiding would definitely not be at ease, and would definitely arrange a trustworthy person to accompany her and escort her. For example, in the last Sanu treasure ship Secret Realm, it was arranged that senior brother Ling Shu came to escort the two. What virtue and ability do I have to become someone that Master can trust? To the point that he was willing to let me escort Miss Shi. I think it was because my performance in Guide Q in the last Sanu treasure ship Secret Realm was too outstanding, which formed a sharp contrast with senior brother who could do nothing after the car overturned, which made my trust in Master's heart increase rapidly. In short, you must strictly follow my orders next, understand? Luo Yan repeatedly and patiently reminded. Yeah. Miss Shi nodded impatiently. Let's go. Luo Yan activated the water sealing seal, separating a water-repelling space with a radius of 2 meters around the two people, and then jumped into the sea with Shiluli. This is the seawater of the edge of the East China Sea, and the live transmittance is much worse than that of the East China Sea. The two of them only descended a few feet, and the surrounding light quickly became darker. Luo Yan took out the lighting magic weapon again, which was a hexagonal palace lantern, which shone brightly in the seawater. After descending for several thousand feet, the two finally reached the bottom of the sea. The bottom of the sea here is a lime-white rock surface, which looks like a large plain. In the middle of the plain, a stone tablet stood abruptly. The two flew forward quickly on their swords and arrived at the place where the stone tablet stood. They saw that it was engraved with, it was not clear, as if it had been corroded by the seawater. Only a faint dent was left, and it could be roughly distinguished as 4 words. Under the stone tablet was a deep and bottomless sea cave. Junior brother. Shiluli walked around the stone tablet and asked curiously, didn't they say that the location of the 5 Yuan cave should be kept secret? Why do you want to erect a tablet here? Are you afraid that the foreign monks passing by here can't find this cave? Maybe this tablet was not erected by a king temple. Luo Yan answered casually. Who erected it? Shiluli asked. Ancient monks. Luo Yan replied. Of course it was an ancient monk. Could it be a future monk? Shiluli was a little speechless. She still felt something was wrong. Even if it was a stone tablet erected by an ancient monk, why didn't they move it away when they found this place behind Yu King Temple? However, Luo Yan was in a hurry to get on with his journey, and he kept urging her at the edge of the cave. Miss Shi could only put aside her doubts and quickly ran to her junior brother. The two held hands and jumped down from the sea cave with the help of the water sealing seal. Chapter 216 Your remains. After entering the cave, the first thing you see is a long, vertical tunnel going down. After sinking for about a quarter of an hour, the terrain gradually turns diagonally downward until 2 forks appear. Take the one on the right. Wait. Seeing that he was going to the right, Shirley couldn't help but ask, didn't Father give me the jade slip that records the map? Don't you want to confirm it first? Senior sister. Luoyang said helplessly, didn't you agree to listen to me? I'm listening to you. Shirley smiled sweetly, if you say you must go right, of course I will follow you, but this doesn't prevent me from asking before you make a decision, right? My answer is. Luoyang threw the jade slip to her and said confidently, the entire map's pathfinding steps are all recorded in my mind, so there is no need to confirm. Shirley immersed her consciousness in the jade slip and took a closer look. It was indeed the right way. She returned the jade slip to Luoyang obediently, with a slightly embarrassed expression, and whispered, I just subconsciously felt that I should take the left one. We brought a map this time, so don't play with your metaphysical inspiration. Luoyang said firmly. Shirley didn't say anything, and followed Luoyang obediently. Go to the next three-way intersection and take the middle passage. Go to a pot-shaped cave, descend to the bottom of the pot, and take the melon seed-shaped entrance. Go to a slope, don't go uphill, go around the back of the slope, and go to the secret cave next to the rubble. Luoyang followed the instructions on the map and led Shirley along the route, while he couldn't help but complain again in his heart. Although I already knew it, what the hell is recorded on this map? Can't you just measure and draw the path? After about a day, Shirley was a little exhausted, not because she was tired, but because she felt extremely bored and boring to drill around in the cave tunnels full of stone walls. Luoyang stopped to rest sympathetically. Anyway, at the current speed, it would take about 24 days to reach the Keyuanqi channel deep at the bottom of the cave, which was more than enough time. Shirley cheered, found an open space nearby, took out the grill ingredients, and began to prepare to cook, which made Luoyang unfounded. Undersea barbecue is not bad, it's really amazing that you, Miss Shi, thought of it. If I hadn't accompanied you this time, where would you get such good meat? Shirley was still proud of herself. Luoyang said helplessly, Senior sister, eating is really not a must for cultivators. Put down my skewers before you talk. Shirley said angrily. The two of them slowly finished eating the skewers, and Miss Shi took out a few strange-shaped fish from somewhere and put them on the grill to continue roasting. What kind of fish is this? Luoyang frowned and asked, why haven't I seen it before? Just caught near the gravel pile. Miss Shi said. You dare to eat a fish you just caught? Luoyang quickly grabbed one and used his divine sense to carefully examine it. Well, there is no toxin in the fish meat. Obviously, there is no predator in this deep-sea cave that needs them to evolve toxins. The only problem is that there is too much turbid air, which is much higher than that of ordinary meat. In the past, the universe was round like an egg. Later, Pangu created the world, and the clear air rose and the turbid air sank. Simply put, the lower the altitude, the higher the turbid air content of the organisms. Eating it will definitely cause diarrhea. Well, there is no need to stop Miss Shi, it is better to let her learn a lesson. Luoyang ate the barbecue calmly, watching Miss Shi grill these white-eyed fish with degenerated eyesight, and then enjoyed them with relish. She also kindly handed over one, but Luoyang declined it on the grounds that I don't want to try new food. Little junior brother, you are really too timid. Shirley covered her mouth and laughed. I have already checked with my divine sense, and these fish are not poisonous at all. Does it mean that they can be eaten if they are not poisonous? Luoyang smiled secretly in his heart and pretended to turn his attention to the surroundings. His face suddenly changed, and he silently took out the jade slip that recorded the map. Something is wrong. A jing. Luoyang asked in his heart, something is wrong. What's wrong? Kumlinjing asked doubtfully, isn't it exactly the same as recorded on the map? It's precisely because it's exactly the same that there is a problem. Luoyang frowned, his face full of worry. The first edition of the map jade slip was left by ancient monks, and later passed down in Penglayu King Temple. Each generation of monks will modify and supplement the map according to their actual exploration situation. In fact, since the time interval between each exploration is basically much longer than the cycle of undersea earthquakes, the terrain of each exploration and the route recorded on the map jade slip are roughly the same as the outer route, but the deep route will be different. This is why we can't rely entirely on the map, and we must remember the route we came. But you see, we have come deep here, and there is no discrepancy with what is recorded on the map jade slip. Isn't it very strange? If you say so, it is true. Kumlinjing said thoughtfully, could it be because there happened to be no undersea earthquake between the last exploration and this time? So the terrain here has not changed. The so-called undersea earthquake that changed the topography of the Wukikayuan cave is just your guess within the temple, and there is no empirical evidence. Luoyang sighed worriedly. If this is some secret realm, and the secret realm restriction changed the topography, then why didn't the topography suddenly change this time? It's even more worrying to think about it this way. Secret realm restriction. Kunlun Mirror thought for a moment. Wait a minute, let me use more spiritual power to scan the surroundings. After a while, she suddenly said in exclamation. No way, what's wrong? Luoyang asked hurriedly. I'm right below, Kunlun Mirror said hesitantly. Although it's very weak, I did scan the fluctuations in space. The frequency of the fluctuations seems to be the characteristics of my body fragments. A piece of your body fragment fell into this cave. Luoyang immediately realized, in other words, it is actually your body fragment that has been constantly changing the terrain of the 5Kayuan cave from ancient times to the present, trapping many cultivators here. Ahem. Kunlun Mirror said awkwardly, after all, I have the ability of time and space. Then let's find your body on this journey to find that Kayuan Ki channel. Luoyang had just made up his mind, but he saw Mishi holding her stomach and said, Junior brother, my stomach is a little uncomfortable. Then senior sister went to the next cave to relieve herself. Luoyang laughed in his heart. As expected, she came, and showed his concern in a hypocritical manner. Hypocritical personality, synchronization value +1. Well. She nodded awkwardly, but junior brother, you must not take the opportunity to leave me here and run away alone. How could it be? Luoyang immediately sneered. Chapter 217. It's not my turn to make decisions. Mishi went to the next cave. As a cultivator who has practiced fasting, abdominal pain must be an unprecedented and novel experience for her. Luoyang sincerely hopes that after this lesson, her mental age can be more mature. At least don't be too greedy for food and drink, which will bring shame to us cultivators. Of course, educating Mishi is just a side job. The most important thing at present is to figure out the mystery in the 5Ks converging to the origin cave. Can your corpse read minds? Luoyang asked with a frown. What do you mean by my corpse? Kunlun Mirror protested his name. It's not mind reading, it just can roughly sense your shallow thoughts. Just like last time in the secret realm of the Queen Mother's palace, it could sense that you had the intention to steal it. I remember that the demons seem to have this ability too. Luoyang's tone became more suspicious. As long as you are proficient in illusion, sensing thoughts is the basic skill. Kunlun Mirror replied, I will help you block its sensing first. So before, it was your fragments that sensed my thoughts and deliberately designed this maze according to the map in my memory. Luoyang said with a gloomy face, in order to lure me to go deeper and deeper. It may not be to lure you to go deeper. Kunlun Mirror raised an objection. Maybe it just hopes that you will go along the original route, reach Kayuan Kimei smoothly all the way, and go back quickly after practicing. Instead of searching everywhere and having a chance to discover its existence. But now I know of its existence. Luoyang sighed. So next, it will not be arranged according to the original route on the map. Kunlun Mirror also sighed. Last time it was constantly rewinding, this time it changed to the great shift of the universe, right? Luoyang said with empty eyes. Broken Mirror, how come you always come up with something new for me? I'm already proficient in the power of time and space. Kunlun Mirror defended. Time and space. Manipulating time and space, isn't it an instinct? What should I do next? Luoyang said impatiently. If it connects several cave chambers end to end to form a circular route, won't I never be able to get out? In theory, there is indeed such a possibility. Kunlun Mirror said seriously, but don't worry, I can also interfere with its manipulation of the space here. Do you mean teleport? Luoyang asked puzzledly. Don't let you Lily see any clues. Of course not to teleport you over. Kunlun Mirror explained with a smile. What if it interferes with the teleportation? You might be buried somewhere on the sea but just halfway through. So, instead of teleporting us to the location of your fragment, it assembles the cave in front of us in space and connects them into a passable route. Luoyang said thoughtfully, just like Warong Road. What is Warong Road? Kunlun Mirror asked curiously, but it's roughly correct. If the 5Ks converging to the origin cave is divided into areas with the cave as the center, then each area is connected by a corridor 1 as high and half as wide. The fragment is trying to continuously combine and assemble these areas, so that even if you keep going down, you will get farther and farther away from it. However, I have stopped its assembly. In other words, Luoyang pondered for a moment and said, the terrain of the 5Ks converging to the origin cave is no longer changing. As long as I haven't lost the battle with it, the terrain will not change anymore. Cumlin Mirror gave an affirmative answer. Of course, it is different from what is recorded on the map Jade Slip now. You have to explore it yourself next. So, you won't lose to it, will you? Luoyan asked in a tone that was 3 parts suspicious and 7 parts teasing. It's the original body after all. It would be too embarrassing to lose to a fragment that has no intelligence and only instincts. No. Cumlin Mirror became angry. Don't worry about me. You should take care of yourself. The route below is very complicated now. Cumlin Mirror stopped talking, and Luoyan continued to think. Today, the 5K's Kaoyuan cave has changed from a non-static simple maze to a static complex maze. The former was carefully designed and adjusted by the Cumlin Mirror fragment at any time, with the purpose of concealing its own existence, so that Luoyan could quickly find the Kaoyuan meridian and leave. When Luoyan suddenly found something wrong, this intention had already failed. So the fragments quickly disrupted the maze terrain. A Jin, who noticed this, immediately stopped it, and finally fixed the maze into a static and no longer variable. In this way, it returned to a pure exploration activity. Woo! Shili came back from the cave next to her. She looked a little depressed, probably because she was exhausted. Junior brother, my legs are numb. Let's find a place to sit first. Seeing that Mishi was like a rabbit with drooping ears, Luoyan was angry and amused, so he teased her, will you eat anything you want in the future? No. Shili pursed her lips, I have completed the marrow cleansing. Luoyan. He slightly widened his eyes, as if trying to tell whether Shili's facial expression was fake. However, he only saw pure emotions in her eyes. A kind of got what you wanted, but paid a heavy price feeling of both joy and regret. I don't know why. Shili gathered the hem of his robe, found a clean place on the ground and sat down, grinning. The remaining turbid air in the bone marrow all came out at once, although the process was really painful. I see. King Pingjian suddenly said, the fish he ate before was the one with white eyes and no vision, called Zhu. There is an abyss in the East China Sea, and no one knows how deep it is. There is a fish without turbidity, which is in line with the way of yin and yang. Eating it can make your ears and eyes sharp and eliminate all serious illnesses. In short, this kind of fish only grows in the abyss where the turbid air is extremely thick and heavy, but eating it can cleanse people's turbid air, which is similar to Kaoyuan Kimenai. Luoyan. Whatever you want, you get it, right? So it's really invincible luck? Mishi, you unreasonable metaphysical expert. Well, wait, it seems to be useful now. Senior sister. Luoyan suddenly said solemnly, which frightened Shili, it's bad. What's bad? Mishi asked blankly. We took the wrong path. Luoyan showed a look of deep regret, I remembered the steps on the map incorrectly somewhere before, and now I don't know where I am. Oh. Shili nodded, not quite understanding, but junior brother should still remember the way we came, right? Then should we go back the same way? No. Luoyan said with a flattering smile, since we are here, let's explore the front first. If there are dead ends, it's not too late to turn back. But since we are exploring off the map this time, how about letting senior sister choose the route? But, Shili was a little tempted, he actually let me lead the way, and a little proud, junior brother admitted his mistake, so he deliberately made it difficult and said, didn't we agree at the beginning that I should listen to you in the cave? Isn't this not good? I must take back my previous arrogant remarks. Luoyan said with a modest smile, senior sister's good fortune is thousands of times better than my crude and clumsy wisdom. Fortunately, my senior sister is here, so it is not my turn to continue to make decisions and interfere with the itinerary arrangements. Please use your unique intuition and luck to take me to flatten this insignificant Kaoyuan cave. Can you please stop talking? I want to vomit. In his mind, along with the screen prompts of the false synchronization value, there was Cumlin Jing's almost unbearable cry. Chapter 218 The second guide queue. At the fork in the road, go left. At the crossroad, go left. When you come to a dead end, turn around and go left. Luoyan finally couldn't help asking. From just now, it seems that we have been going left all the time. You don't like going left? Shili glanced at him, then let's go right next. No. Luoyan didn't know what words to use to describe his feelings at the moment. Are we just going to walk around like this? Where is the good luck we promised? You dare to question my luck, senior sister? Shili put her hands on her hips. I dare not. Luoyan immediately changed his face and showed a flattering smile, but, senior sister, can you tell me how your good luck works? Well, I'm not doubting you, I just want to broaden my horizons and gain experience. That's complicated to say. Shilly said seriously, the so-called good luck is the ability to make your wishes come true. As long as I concentrate on finding the Kuanki channel as soon as possible, then even if I keep going left, I can finally reach my destination smoothly. Do you understand? Luoyan was suddenly confused. Your metaphysics is too unreasonable. If you always go left at the intersection, you can actually reach the end. Hey, wait, if there is no circular route in the maze, wouldn't always going left be equivalent to traversing the maze? It seems that there is no problem. The two walked for several more hours, and they didn't know how far they had gone into the seabed. The surroundings were still the same dark rock walls. Shilly suddenly stopped and said, "Let's take a break and eat something." Seeing her taking out the cauldron in boredom, Luoyan muttered in his heart and asked Kunlun Mirror, "Mirror, are we on the right path now?" "I don't know." Kunlun Mirror replied. "How come you don't even know this, Broken Mirror?" "Then why can your fragment know?" "Why should I know?" Kunlun Mirror replied speechlessly, "It has been here for hundreds of thousands of years, of course it has scanned every inch of the cave. I'm a newcomer like you, how could I know this? I can only use magic to interfere with its magic." "Then tell me, Miss, she really has some good luck that can lead me out of this maze and find your body fragments and Kuanki channel?" Luoyan continued to ask doubtfully. "If you ask me for my opinion, I think it's outrageous." Kumlinjing said honestly, "Where does such a thing as good luck come from in this world? Heaven will not favor someone alone. In that case, how do you explain the Sanu treasure ship last time and the Wikikuan this time?" Luoyan was still very suspicious. She said she wanted to speed up the marrow washing, but she found the bodybuilding secret technique. She said she wanted to skip the marrow washing, but she met the Washuo fish again. Think about it, if I can skip the marrow washing by going to the toilet, then what was the point of me going to the Shushan locking demon tower to participate in the trial and taking risks to find a blood pool to wash my marrow? The more he spoke, the more indignant he became. Senior sister and even broke her natal sword. "Calm down and don't make a fool of yourself." Kumlinjing said quickly, "A person's luck cannot remain unchanged forever. The fact that it worked the first 2 times does not mean it will work this time. I'm not jealous of her." Luoyan was about to continue to defend himself when he saw Shilly lift the lid of the cauldron. The aroma of the broth wafted out in the space formed by the water-sealing seal. He swallowed his saliva and said, "I'd better drink the soup first to save face for my senior sister." In the small and dark cave, the two of them surrounded a cauldron, and they drank the soup 1 spoonful at a time, feeling warm all over. Shilly put away the cauldron and sighed, "It's too boring to just keep going like this. Can't we encounter something strange?" "Senior sister, isn't it good to be safe?" Luoyan asked inexplicably. "What's the point of having a smooth journey?" Shilly said dissatisfiedly, "Why didn't we suddenly encounter danger first, and then we, the senior sisters and brothers, supported each other and finally overcame the difficulties and obstacles and arrived at the location of the Kuanki channel? Wouldn't it be more interesting to design it this way?" "What kind of old-fashioned novel routine is that?" Luoyan just complained, and heard Kunlun Mirror suddenly shout, "Be careful. It finds that it can't beat me, and it's going to fight to the death." As soon as the voice fell, the rocks under the feet of the two began to tremble violently. Luoyan only had time to hug Shilly's waist, and everything around him suddenly fell down. At the top of a huge natural cave somewhere, a large-scale collapse suddenly occurred, and countless rubble burst out. 2 figures broke out of the smoke and dust, pulled up sword lights in the air, and quickly circled and landed on the ground. It was Luoyan who was holding Shilly. Just now, at the moment of falling down due to the cracking of the ground, Luoyan had already seen the surrounding situation clearly. The violent earthquake destroyed not only the cave they were in, but also the entire space around them. If they stopped suddenly in the air, they might be hit head-on by the large amount of rubble fallen rapidly from above. Therefore, Luoyan calmly held Shilly and fell down with countless fallen rocks, while constantly using Toho sword to split the rocks that might be close to him. Mishi once again exposed her immature side in the face of this sudden situation. She just hugged Luoyan's arm tightly, closed her eyes tightly, and didn't dare to see what was happening around her at all. It was not until the two fell into the huge cave that Luoyan quickly moved sideways with his sword in the air, taking Shilly out of the range of the collapse. The place where they were originally located was covered by a large amount of stones and smoke, and even a hill of rubble was piled up under the cave. If they had moved sideways a little slower just now, they would have been buried alive by these rubble, or exposed Kyo Chain Time's Thunder method in order to protect themselves. In short, it was not a good result. You can open your eyes now, senior sister. Luoyang said, we have landed. Hearing the sound of scattered gravel falling to the ground around, Shili shuddered and shook her head in fear. Open your eyes. Luoyang deliberately shouted at her. Why are you so fierce? Shili really fell into the trap and immediately opened her eyes and retorted. If it weren't for your bad mouth, saying that we would suddenly encounter danger, would we have encountered such a thing? Luoyang helplessly held his forehead and said, if the passage out was blocked by the collapse, we would be trapped to death in this deep sea. This was of course a lie, because the Kunlun mirror can ignore space and teleport, provided that there is no interference from the fragments of the main body. As long as the fragments of the main body can be found, they can teleport away from here anytime and anywhere. Shili didn't know this, and thought that it was because of her casual words that caused the landslide in the seabed cave. She immediately said with tears in her eyes, I didn't know it was so effective. How is your own luck? Don't you know it yourself? Luoyang sighed and said, well, since your previous prophecy came true, then the following finally found the Kyuan Meridian must also come true for me. It must be effective, it must be effective. Shili closed her eyes again, put her hands together in front of her chest, and shook them vigorously, as if a mountain Taoist priest was asking the gods to descend. Luoyang no longer cared about her, but looked around carefully, and found that this cave was much larger than the previous caves, almost as large as a modern football field. Unlike other caves, this cave was not completely dark, but was dotted with coral trees, and its jagged surface like deer antlers had star sand light spots, which reminded Luoyang of the suspended Gaiku in the depths of the Great Gully in the secret realm of the Three Islands treasure ship. The palace was also surrounded by glowing coral trees, which made the entire palace look like a fairyland in the Dragon Palace. Luoyang followed the faint light of the coral trees to the end of the cave, and saw an equally beautiful palace surrounded by a large number of glowing coral forests about a mile away. It was just like the Gaiku Palace in the past. Chapter 219 Coral Palace, Dark Ghost Dragon. That is, following Luoyang's gaze, Mishi couldn't believe her eyes. Gaiku? No. Luoyang shook his head. It should be an ancient relic from the same period, so it has the same architectural style and appearance. You mean, the ancient monks who once lived at the bottom of the Five Kyuan cave? It is very likely that they are the same group of ancient monks who built Gaiku in the Great Ravine. Luoyang said. Is that so? Shili was thoughtful, and suddenly said excitedly, why don't we go explore the palace? Luoyang hesitated for a moment, only to hear Kunlun Mirror suddenly say, the Kyuan channel is in that palace. Are you sure, Ajin? It's so close, of course I can feel it. Kunlun Mirror's voice paused, my body fragments are also in it. Then we can catch them all in one fell swoop. Luoyang sneered. Be careful, since it didn't hesitate to collapse the cave and led you here, there must be some trap here. Kunlun Mirror reminded quickly. Ajin, don't worry. No matter what tricks your fragments of the original body have, how can they deceive me? Shit. Luoyang was speaking contemptuously when he suddenly saw a huge and ferocious head popping out from the darkness in front of him. It was a huge dragon, to be precise. It didn't look like a living dragon, but more like some kind of undead creature unique to the Western fantasy world. Its body was almost translucent, with an ominous blue luster, and the bones inside were as pale as ivory and as bright as cold jade, without a trace of flesh and blood. What a vicious magic skill! Kingping Sword said in surprise, using dragon bones as the formation base, flesh and blood as ink, engraving the soul-binding formation on it, imprisoning countless dragon souls in it, creating such a stitched monster. Isn't the person who set up the formation afraid of being punished by heaven? Never mind that. Luoyang quickly pulled Shili to hide behind that pile of stones, and asked hurriedly, what is the way to deal with this monster? The only advice I can give is to run away. Kingping Sword sneered and said, even if it is a living dragon, no matter what species, the strength realm is guaranteed to be the golden core realm. Master Sword Master, you're a small foundation building disciple, what are you thinking? If you want to expose Kyo Chain Time's methods and use the Arctic Thunder that specifically defeats the Dragon Clan, I don't know how much chance of winning. Luoyang was gritting his teeth to assess the situation, and saw that the ghost dragon suddenly let out a long, earth-shaking roar, shaking the surrounding stone walls. Then, it aimed the two balls of ghost fire jumping in the eye sockets of its skull at Luoyang, who was hiding behind that pile of stones. Suddenly, his vision blurred, and his ears were filled with noisy beeps, until the Kunlun Mirror screamed, awakening the almost dizzy Luoyang from his semi-coma. Guanshui, run! Luoyang shuddered suddenly, and his scattered eyes quickly focused on the head of the ghost dragon that was approaching rapidly. The latter was already within dozens of feet, and there was a bone-chilling cold current through the seawater. The vastness is dark, the North Sea in thunder. Luoyang silently recited the spell in his heart, and a ball of black lightning condensed in his right hand from his sleeve, which was the North Pole thunder that specifically defeated the Four Seas Dragon clan. He recited Thunder Light Fire text, Jade Pivot Divine Thunder again, and a ball of green lightning also came out from his left hand from his sleeve, which was the Jade Pivot Thunder that specifically defeated the Ghost Soul. He quickly glanced at Shillelagh and confirmed that she was in a dizzy state and had no consciousness. He immediately swung his hands and threw the two balls of lightning out of his sleeves. At this time, the Ghost Dragon was too close, and he was hit before he could dodge. The Jade Pivot Thunder was faster, and it hit the blue soul flesh and blood first, and then it burned and penetrated it directly like a red-hot iron inserted into ice and snow. Then came the Beiji Thunder, which was a little slower but silent, passed through the big hole made by the Jade Pivot Thunder and hit the dragon bone engraved with runes. Amid the earth-shaking roar, Luoyang had already pulled out the Kingpin sword, and the sword light wrapped the unconscious Mishi, and then directly activated the unity of man and sword, and rushed to the palace in the coral forest in the distance. Escape. Escape, 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 escape. He didn't even dare to look back to confirm what happened to the Ghost Dragon. Anyway, he didn't even have the golden elixir level, and it was wishful thinking to kill the other party. He ran half the distance, and his mind became dizzy again. It seemed that the Ghost Dragon caught up from behind and cast a weird and strange illusion again. At the critical moment, the Kunlun mirror came to the rescue again, and a scolding woke Luoyang up. After coming to his senses, Luoyang was so scared that his soul almost flew away. He quickly made a gesture and pulled out the strongest trump card in his trump card, the acquired 5 elements extinction divine light, and rushed to the back regardless of anything. The divine light hit the Ghost Dragon head-on, and Luoyang rushed into the main gate of the palace with Mishi at the same time. Only then did he have time to look back and saw that the Ghost Dragon's head had been completely shattered and out of shape, but it was still moving freely in the seawater and rushing towards the palace violently. Even if it was the immortal family secret technique and the unparalleled thunder method, it was limited by his current cultivation level and the lethality was still not enough. He quickly carried Mishi again and flew directly to the depths of the palace on his sword. There was another loud noise like thunder, and the Ghost Dragon hit the main gate of the palace. Although the main gate was open, it was too small compared to the Ghost Dragon. The latter could not get in at all, but just hit the palace like crazy outside, shaking the walls on both sides. Luoyang rushed into the depths of the palace with Mishi. When he saw that the Ghost Dragon did not catch up, he stopped and breathed a sigh of relief. Shillelagh moaned and slowly woke up. She realized that Luoyang was beside her. Just as she was about to speak, she suddenly saw the surrounding environment clearly and screamed in fear. The hall where the tour was full of white skeletons. Some sat on gorgeous stone chairs, holding carved silver cups in their hands. Some fell on the cold stone ground, hugging and holding hands with other skeletons. "Is this," Shillelagh said in a trembling voice, "the underworld?" "There are more ghosts in the underworld, not corpses." Luoyang corrected her statement. This should be a gathering place of ancient dragons somewhere, but later something happened, causing them all to die here. "Dragon clan?" Shillelagh asked timidly. "That's right," Luoyang said. "Look at the foreheads of these skulls." Shillelagh looked carefully and found that there were indeed some subtle bulges on the left and right of their foreheads, which was one of the characteristics of the dragon race after they transformed. "How did they die?" She hugged Luoyang's arm in fear and asked in a low voice. "I don't know." Luoyang turned around and asked Kunlun Mirror again, "Where are your fragments?" "In the inner room in front," Kunlun Mirror said. "Stay here for a while, don't move." Luoyang turned around and told Shillelagh, "I'll be back soon." "No." Shillelagh hurriedly hugged his arm, "I want to go with you." "I knew it would be like this." Luoyang sighed in his heart, pointed his finger, and the heaven-flipping seal was raised, slamming into the door of the inner room in front. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Mundo Fanfic Novelers, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelers. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 220 Dongji Palace. The heaven-flipping seal smashed through the door, and the ocean current surged rapidly, mixed with debris and puddles, temporarily obscuring Shillelagh's vision. Luoyang took the opportunity to shoot the Kingpin sword close to the ground and rushed into the inner room in front. A large amount of magic light burst out from the inner room. Obviously, the fragments of the cunning mirror were hiding here, and they were not unprepared and waiting to die. However, when they hit the Kingpin sword, it was like waves hitting hard reefs, and soon turned into foam and dissipated. Shirley quickly hid behind Luo Yan to avoid being splashed by the bursting fragments, but did not notice that a black stream of light quietly returned from the front and drilled into Luo Yan's right robe sleeve. The second fragment, got it? Yes. Cunning mirror said, this fragment has a lot of spiritual power. I feel like my strength has returned, some of it. You're welcome, Arjing. Luo Yan said calmly, this is just a small reward for you serving me for so many years. I didn't thank you. Cunning mirror said speechlessly, I just, forget it. The dust gradually settled around, and Shirley carefully poked her head to look into the inner room and asked, Junior brother, do you think that is the Yuan-Ki channel you mentioned? Oh? Luo Yan followed her gaze and found that there was a vent in the shape of a ground dragon under the floor in the center of the inner room. The weak spiritual energy rose from below, like slightly boiling water vapor, forming curls of white smoke in the air. So that's it, the main fragment of cunning mirror stayed here to absorb the Yuan spiritual energy here. Luo Yan immediately understood, and Miss Shi had already impatiently sat down cross-legged on the spot, closed her eyes and held her breath, and began to breathe in and out to absorb the spiritual energy around her. There was another loud noise outside, as if the ghost dragon had not given up yet and was still persevering in ramming the palace gate. Before it breaks in, thinking of this, Luo Yan immediately sat on the ground, posing with his 5 hearts facing the sky, and quietly circulated the 9 heavens pure and subtle entry mantra. The whole body's true energy was circulated and agitated. After each cycle, the pores and acupoints of the whole body opened up, absorbing the surrounding spiritual energy into the body. The Yuan spiritual energy at the end of the dragon vein was indeed mysterious. When it first entered the body, it was just a trace, so weak that it seemed like it would collapse at any time, but in fact it was extremely tenacious and endless. Wherever it passed, whether it was meridians or flesh and bones, all hidden diseases were repaired and supplemented. Following the route of the Qi circulation, the Yuan spiritual energy finally returned to the purple mansion along the Taoist true energy and returned to the Sea of Qi. Luo Yan saw that his purple mansion suddenly trembled slightly, and then the Sea of Qi expanded, soaking the entire inner wall of the purple mansion into it, and slowly transformed into the inner wall of the Dungeon as pure and bright as jade. Jade Palace is complete. So far, he has been practicing Taoism in the Wafu period for a total of 10 years, the sum of the 3 lines at Qi, Ling, and Luo, and has cultivated for 60 years with the Golden Mercury Dam, 30 years in the Cloud Sea Cocoon, 70 years in the Kunlun Tianmen Hall, and now 50 years of Yuan spiritual energy, a total of 220 years of Wafu cultivation, breaking through the threshold of the upper 3rd grade Golden Elixir, and officially building the Jade Palace. Not only that, he still has 120 years of life. Leaving 10 years to be on the safe side, after all, it is impossible to really survive until the end of life and then form an elixir, the risk is too great, that is, he can practice for another 110 years, a total of 330 years of Wafu cultivation. Only 70 years away, I can reach the threshold of the upper 2nd grade Golden Elixir. I am worthy of it. Luo Yan completed the last big cycle, and the Yuan spiritual energy in his body had slowly dissipated. As the saying goes, the moon is full and waxing, too much is as bad as too little. At this time the body has absorbed enough Yuan spiritual energy, and it will be harmful to force it into the body. Shirley also opened her eyes, her pretty face full of joy. As expected of me, Shirley. On the day when the marrow cleansing was completed, I gained 50 years of cultivation in the Wafu stage. Who else in the world can do that? Before she could express her feelings about entering the great perfection of the marrow cleansing stage, she heard Luo Yan say in a deep voice, "It's strange, why didn't the ghost dragon continue to hit?" Ghost dragon? Shirley blinked. Could it be because it found that it couldn't get in, so it gave up and left? There is such a possibility. Luo Yan said seriously, but before it is confirmed, we still can't take it lightly. Of course. Shirley was in a good mood, and she didn't bother to care about the ghost dragon. She just counted on her fingers and said, I am 23 this year, and I still have 167 years to cultivate. Plus the 50 years I got from Yuan-Ki Mei. Doesn't it mean that the 3rd grade Golden Elixir is already in my hands? Indeed. Luo Yan looked out vigilantly. It should be impossible for the ghost dragon to transform. Where did it go? Even if it's a 2nd grade Golden Elixir, it's only 183 years away. If we encounter 4 more adventures like the 5 gears converging to the origin cave, it will be enough. Shirley smiled so much that her eyes almost curved, and she began to calculate happily, even if it's said that since the establishment of King Temple, there are only 5 people who can make a second-grade golden elixir, and all of them have at least achieved the golden immortal level. If the ghost dragon is guarding outside the palace, how can I take Miss Shi away from here? Luo Yan also felt a little headache. Let's explore this palace first. The two of them left the inner room with one happy and one worried, and continued toward to the upper level. The second floor is the Dragon Clan's scripture storage. Since this place is located underwater, it is naturally impossible to write on paper scrolls. All of them are jade slips, without any signs of decay. Luo Yan picked up a jade slip and penetrated it with his spiritual consciousness, only to find that the other party was actually writing in the Dragon Clan's language. In ancient times, the human race and the demon race were in opposition, and the languages and writings of both sides were also incomprehensible. Even though he had a super intelligence of understanding everything he heard, and had learned some ancient characters in King Temple, he could only translate and guess about 30% to 40% at this time. Judging from the content of the record, it seemed to be a history book. The history book said that this place was called Dongji Palace. The Dongji Sea where it was located was the place where Niue built the East Sky Pillar in the past. In the past, the sky collapsed and the earth broke, and the great goddess Niue refined the sky repairing stone to repair the leak in the sky. She also killed the giant turtle of the universe, cut off its 4 legs, and placed them at the extreme points of the east, south, west and north, propping up the originally tilted sky again. The Dragon Clan established the Dongji Palace here, but the words at the end were too complicated, so Luo Yan couldn't translate them and could only scratch his head. He turned his head painfully and saw Miss Shi holding a jade slip and reading it with relish. "Senior sister, do you understand the ancient language of the Dragon Clan?" Luo Yan asked in surprise. "I learned it in the temple before," Shirley said as a matter of course. "Good, senior sister." Luo Yan was overjoyed. "Then these jade slips, I think senior sister can help me translate." "What do you want to translate?" Shirley proudly puffed out her chest, thinking that the junior brother asked me again. "Oh, there is really no way to deal with him. Who told me to be his senior sister?" Luo Yan handed the jade slip in his hand to her. Shirley took a closer look and said in surprise, "This seems to be a history book. It should be about the history of this palace." Luo Yan asked patiently, "What does it say in it?" Shirley read it carefully, frowned and said, "It says here that the ancient Dragon Clan established the Dongji Palace in this sea area in order to deal with a possible world-destroying disaster in the future." World-destroying disaster? Luo Yan raised his eyebrows and suppressed his anxious emotions calmly. "Senior sister, please explain in detail. It is written very obscurely here." Shirley supported his chin and pondered. "Well, the celestial spheres intersect and tear the sky." Chapter 221a. Foolproof Escape Plan. The information in the entire Sutra library can be roughly divided into 3 categories. The first is historical materials, which record the intention of the Dragon Clan to build the Dongji Palace, that is, to monitor the Dongji Tianzu. The second is testing, which records a series of observations of the Dragon Clan on the Dongji Tianzu. The Dongji Tianzu is believed to not exist in this space, but to exist on the back of the main world, belly and back against each other, supporting the sky of the main world. However, this support is not foolproof, because the extraterritorial demons will continue to bombard the sky, but no one will maintain the Tianzu. As one thing grows and the other declines, one day the sky will collapse again. The ancient Dragon Clan studied the Tianzu for thousands of years, and the final result was, "I don't understand it." The structural principle of the Tianzu is close to the root of the world and the essence of the Tao, and almost all attempts to study the Tianzu have failed. The third is miscellaneous essays, which record the pessimism and despair of the Dragon Clan that the world will eventually be destroyed, and thus a series of Dragon Clan characteristic scar literature was born. According to various diaries, essays and narrative poems, it can be found that in the later period, the dragon monks stationed in Dongji Palace, who had been possessed by demons, planned to transform Dongji Palace into a second Gaikyu. In Gaikyu, time will be stretched as long as possible. For the dragon monks in it, it is equivalent to delaying the end of the world that will eventually come in the outside world as much as possible. In this way, more preparation time can be gained. However, the war between the human race and the demon race in the outside world is coming to an end. The dragon race has planned to withdraw from the Donghuan demon realm and issued a retrieved order to the monks in Dongji Palace. The dragon monks in Dongji Palace refused to evacuate and decided to use some kind of taboo technique in the tribe to fight the invading human monks to the end. After reading these files, the two people felt a little subtle. So these ancient dragon monks were trying to save the world, but they were destroyed by the ancient human race. The records involving the human race cannot be fully trusted. Luo Yan said seriously, because the two races are hostile to each other, these dragon monks will definitely avoid the important issues, whitewash their own intentions, and slander our ancestors. Yeah, that's true. Shirley nodded, but she was secretly uneasy. So, what is the upcoming doomsday? Now, how much time is left? After packing up these dragon historical materials, the two searched the palace for the last time. Not finding anything, they planned to leave and go back. Looking out from the window of the corridor, they saw the huge ghost dragon circling above the palace, and its sinister eyes kept looking back and forth below. According to the records of the dragon clan, this monster is called Rotten Bones and Rotten Souls. It is a strange monster created after a part of the dragon clan was sacrificed alive. Its characteristics are immortality and recovery. Unless it is smashed into dust in an instant with a powerful magic, even if only a small piece of debris is left, it will recondense into the outline of a monster. The price is that the dragon soul that makes up the monster will not enter reincarnation and will be forever imprisoned in the dragon bones. Luo Yan had previously used the Five Thunders Righteousness and the Extinction Divine Light to directly blow up the head of this ghost dragon, but the other party seemed to be completely uninjured and continued to chase the two people all the way to the palace, and kept hitting the palace gate, ferociously messed up. From here to the place where the two fell, it is about 1,700 meters. Luo Yan made a rough estimate and knew that it would only take a few seconds to fly across this distance. The problem is that once the two leave the palace and rush halfway, there is a high probability that they will be fixed by the strange spell of the ghost dragon and lose their minds. Even if Arjun helps to remove the spell, the speed of running will be interrupted and they will have to fight against the ghost dragon. If this ghost dragon has learned from the previous lesson and designed some trump card against my method, then the risk is huge. Luo Yan stared at the ghost dragon outside, then turned to look at Mishi, and gradually a plan came to his mind. What are you looking at me for? Mishi asked in confusion. Senior sister, did you see that? Luo Yan pointed to the distance to Shiluli. That's where we fell from above, and it's also the starting point for us to return the same way. You mean? Shiluli thought for a moment and asked, while it's not paying attention, rush over in one breath. That's right. Luo Yan said with a smile. I always feel like there's something fishy going on. Shiluli suddenly had a premonition, thinking that junior brother would not trick me into going over to lure away the ghost dragon and take the opportunity to slip away, right? So she glared and said fiercely, you go first, I'll follow you. Luo Yan pretended to be embarrassed, and said after a while, okay, but you have to follow me closely, senior sister. Of course. Shiluli patted her chest, I'll cover you. If I really expect you to cover me, I might as well expect Gailong to commit suicide. Luo Yan silently complained for a moment, and smiled. Then let's go. The two walked to the open palace gate, and Luo Yan naturally reached out and held Shiluli's little hand in his palm. Mishi subconsciously wanted to struggle, but then she thought that the two of them would run away together, and holding hands was just to prevent separation. She also held back the slight shyness in her heart and let Luo Yan hold her like this. At a certain moment when Gailong turned his head, Luo Yan suddenly drove the Toho sword, pulled Shiluli and turned into a sword-like to escape quickly. Before he rushed out far, he felt like he was hit by a heavy hammer on his head, and he almost fainted on the spot. Luo Yan quickly regained consciousness. He saw Mishi rolling her eyes from the corner of his eyes. He immediately swung his sleeves and shot out the 5 elements great extinction light. However, the ghost dragon was hit by the 5 elements light, and turned around and whipped Luo Yan with his tail like a long whip. He only had time to drag Mishi behind him. The Toho sword was hit as soon as it blocked him. The two were immediately slapped away by the huge force. The broken flying sword fragments embedded in his body, and Luo Yan felt a sweetness in his throat, as if his internal organs were shattered. He endured the severe pain, pulled out the Kingping sword in the air, quickly stabilized his flying body, threw a jade pivot thunder at the ghost dragon, and then immediately turned around and flew upwards with the sword. The exit is already close. When he arrived at the exit, Luo Yan looked closely and almost vomited blood. The gap where the two fell had long been sealed by the ghost dragon with more rubble. The opponent really had a trump card. He caught a glimpse of the bloody ghost dragon from the corner of his eye, howling like a demon. Luo Yan had no choice but to grit his teeth, take out the Tianji magic shuttle and cover the two. His whole body was filled with true energy, and he was ready to fight to the death. He shouted in his heart, "A Jing! Teleport!" The Kunlun mirror immediately activated the time and space teleportation, moving the rubble blocking the road above, revealing a narrow gap. The magic shuttle turned into a stream of light, suddenly shot into the gap and disappeared. The broken head of the ghost dragon hit the rock wall in vain. After a loud noise that shook the earth, the underground cave began to collapse again. Chapter 222. I have conquered the poisonous golden silkworm Gu. The Tianu shuttle rushed out of the Wukikayuan cave. Luoyang controlled the magic weapon to stop the momentum and hovered in the seawater, waiting for the elders of Yu King Temple to pick him up. Shili was still in a coma. It was obvious that Gailong had learned the lesson of not trapping Luoyang last time, and greatly enhanced the strength of the spell, so that Mishi has not yet regained consciousness. If Luoyang did not want to continue to ambush in Yu King Temple, he could do whatever he wanted to her at this time. No, with my Lily's personality and emotional intelligence, if he really did whatever he wanted, it would not be impossible to hug her and coax her afterwards. Of course, the above thoughts were just thoughts. After all, Luoyang did not plan to lose his Yuanying so early. At least he had to wait until Wei Donliu went to the magic path and got the exquisite double cultivation technique in the bedroom. After roughly estimating the remaining time, Luoyang told Kunlun Mirror, "Teleport to Shipping Mountain." Kunlun Mirror was still recalling his exquisite teleportation just now, which made the trajectory of the ghost dragon using collapse to block the road disappear. He was waiting for Luoyang to praise him, but he was a little disappointed when he heard it. "What's wrong, Mirror?" "No, nothing." Kunlun Mirror sighed, thinking that it would be fine if he didn't praise him. After all, he helped him find the second fragment of the body. Point 4. Shipping Mountain, Tongchuan Gate. Character Identity: Wei Dongliu. Mirror Flower Water Moon Templar covered, traveling through time and space. Wei Dongliu walked out of the stone house and saw Jianglin sleeping on a lounge chair by the lake. It must be said that this Jiang witch has a lot in common with Mishi in terms of appearance and personality. Such a strong curiosity, good at taking advantage of women's natural advantages, strange and often effective premonition ability, and so on. However, the most crucial difference is that Mishi played her true self, while witch Jiang was just pretending. So she really often did some ridiculous things, while Jianglin controlled it just right, all with powerful acting skills. Perhaps only when she was asleep would she show such a completely innocent, unpretended expression. Wei Dongliu was a little emotional. Behind the window of the stone house on the other side, the little girl Wang Jun was secretly watching the two of them. Junior sister, Guo Jin called weakly from behind, "Hurry up and finish today's daily lessons. Don't make noise." Wang Jun turned his head and motioned him to be silent. Master is standing next to Master's wife, staring at her sleeping face in a daze. "That's not Master's wife." Guo Jin honestly corrected her, "It's Senior Jing next door." Sooner or later. Wang Jun thought to himself that the various spells that Senior Jing taught me were much more interesting than the key refining techniques taught by Master. If Senior Jing can't become my master's wife, how can I continue to learn spells from her in the future? I have to think of a way to assist. Wei Dongliu was concentrating on thinking. The demon in Jing Witch's sleep sensed the other party approaching, and began to stir restlessly, awakening her master from her drowsy sleep. Then she regained consciousness, her eyelids moved slightly, her mind raced, and she pretended that she had been pretending to be asleep. Suddenly, she opened her eyes forcefully, glared at him, and said half shyly and half angrily, "Doorway, how can you stare at my face like this? This is too frivolous and rude." Wei Dongliu's expression did not change, but he just said lightly, "You've gained weight." Jing Witch. The anger in her chest rushed to her forehead, and then was quickly suppressed by her strong willpower. After all, she was a girl from the demon sect, so she certainly couldn't be angered by such words, and she started to cry. "I didn't expect that fellow Daoist Wei would be such a person, not only rude and frivolous, but also humiliating me." Sob, sob, sob. Wei Dongliu looked at her expressionless for a long time, until Witch Jing put away her disguised expression, and then asked in confusion, "Doesn't fellow Daoist Jing have his own master? Staying in my Tongshuan sect station all day, aren't you afraid that your master will be jealous?" Jianglin instantly broke down, covered her face and cried, and left. Then I'll go. Seeing Witch Jing leave angrily, Wang Jun climbed down the table behind the window of the stone house with a sigh, and said to Guo Jin, This master, it seems that he will really be single for the rest of his life. For a cultivator, is there anything wrong with being single? Yuojin asked in confusion. The problem is that fools like my senior brother don't know what the problem is. Jun rolled his eyes at him unhappily, but quickly hid behind Yuojin, because Wei Dongliu had already started knocking on the door outside. It's been a while since we last met. Let me check your homework, he said stiffly. Yuojin and Jun looked at each other, wondering, where is the meaning of it's been a while since we last met? Master, if you want to embarrass us, just tell us. Wei Dongliu walked into the stone house and began to check on the two disciples. Unexpectedly, the two of them were doing pretty well in their practice. Although not as good as their peers in the past, they were still at a respectable level. Since you have already started to refine Qi, then your master will explain it to you in detail. Wei Dongliu turned his back, put his hands behind his back and said lightly, the foundation of cultivation is the Purple Palace, and the foundation of the Purple Palace is the Qi. The Qi refining stage is the foundation of the foundation on the path of cultivation, and you must not be careless. For a cultivator with ordinary talent, it takes about 60 years to fill the Qi, and 30 to 40 years for a better one. With your qualifications, it is estimated that you will not be able to complete it without 70 or 80 years. Therefore, you must not slack off in your daily lessons. You must circulate at least 360 Haotian every day. Do you understand? Jun's face froze. These 360 Haotian would take up at least 2/3 of every day. Yuojin answered honestly, I understand. Yeah. Wei Dongliu nodded. When you went to the marrow washing stage, your master will allow you to go out for training. Jun was originally a lively and active person. He was originally frowning, but he became a little happy after hearing the words. Yuojin still looked dull, and replied, Yes, master. My junior sister and I will work hard to enter the marrow cleansing stage. Well, Yuojin. Wei Dongliu continued, practicing is like sailing against the current. If you don't advance, you will retreat. You are the eldest brother of my sect. While ensuring that your own cultivation is not falling behind, you must also supervise your junior sister's cultivation. Okay, master. Yuojin naturally obeyed. Jun, who was standing next to him, thought that the master knew that he was lazy, so he quickly restrained his expression and lowered his eyebrows. Wei Dongliu nodded with satisfaction, and then gave a few final instructions before turning around and leaving. Back to his residence, Wei Dongliu was about to sit cross-legged on the bed, when he suddenly heard a buzzing sound from the tripod in the corner, and 3 golden lights flew out from it, hovering in the air for a moment, and fell into Wei Dongliu's open palm. 3 round golden beetles closed the smooth elytra on their backs, gently hugged his fingers, and began to carefully clean their antennae and mouth parts. The poisonous golden silkworm Gu has finally matured. Wei Dongliu was overjoyed. I have one more trump card. According to the records in the classics, after the golden silkworm Gu matures, it will be invulnerable to swords and guns, and it will be difficult to be hurt by water and fire. It can swallow gold and iron, and it is extremely poisonous. It is the most dangerous creature in the world. More importantly, since it has been extinct for nearly 10,000 years, the method to deal with the poisonous golden silkworm Gu has been lost. No one in Kunlin, Penglai or Shushan has it. If used well, it may replace the acquired 5 elements extinction divine light and become the unique weapon of Wei Dongliu. Chapter 223. The trip to southern Xinjiang, the gathering of 5 people since then, which Jing has not come to visit, which makes Wei Dongliu a little worried. With my mysterious personality, there must be someone to refresh the synchronization value. Not only Wei Dongliu is worried, but Jun also misses this future master's wife, but he dare not mention it in front of Wei Dongliu. However, he complained to Yuojin several times in private, saying that the master must have angered the master's wife away. On this day, Jianglin suddenly visited again and brought a message. Aid Donghuang sect? Wei Dongliu asked in surprise. That's right. Which Jiang smiled and said, other mortal monks have been in contact for many days and have already received the news. Why does fellow Daoist Wei have to rely on me, an outposted monk, to tip off? Ahem. Wei Dongliu was a little embarrassed. This identity was meant to be used to lurk inside the demon sect and gather intelligence, but in the end, he was not as well informed as Jianglin. Seeing that Wei Dongliu didn't say anything, Jianglin didn't continue to pester him, but just said, every winter, when the miasma in the 10,000 mountains dissipates, the Shushan Roughnecks will go south to raid and plunder. The Donghuangdu asks us for help every year, but the other party is not from the Jiao sect and is unwilling to offer a suitable price, so no one pays much attention to them. Only the crazy people from the Shudao are willing to help. This year is different. First, Shushan's strength was greatly damaged after the previous riot in the Demon Locking Tower, and second, the Donghuangdu is willing to open up the 10,000 mountains as a reward this time, so everyone made an appointment with the Donghuangdu to ambush Shushan this time. I see. Wei Dongliu nodded. Wouldn't it be better for the Donghuangdu to make up their minds earlier? They had to wait until they were suppressed and beaten by Shushan for so many years before reluctantly giving up their territory. It is said that the founder of the Donghuangdu was once a slave of the beast-taming Dao, not even an outer disciple. Jianglin covered his mouth and laughed. If the founder is like this, how can we expect the descendants to have any strategic vision? In the final analysis, the only ones who really support the demon sect are the heavenly demon sect, the ghost sect, and the mortal sect. Wei Dongliu listened calmly, laughing in his heart. If we really want to talk about the pillars of the demon sect, there are only the heavenly demon sect and the ghost sect. As for the mortal sect, as far as Wei Dongliu knows, there are a few powerful giants, but the whole is a mess. It looks bloated and huge, but it is actually weak, so it is better not to mention it. In that case, he asked without comment, do I need to report to the sect to participate in the hunting in the 100,000 mountains? Report. Jiang Moenvi chuckled, of course not. Have you ever heard that joke, fellow Daoist Wei? What joke? Joining the Fanshindo, there are only two things that require dealing with the sect. Jianglin blinked and smiled. One is to establish a sect, and the other is to change the station. Wei Dongliu. So your Fanshindo is the Civil Affairs Bureau, right? They will only show up when collecting money and handling procedures. Let's not talk about this for now. I wonder if fellow Daoist Wei is willing to join forces with others. Jianglin smiled. Join forces with others? Isn't it joining forces with you? Wei Dongliu was slightly stunned when he heard this, and then he reacted, you also called others, right? Since it is a hunting ambush, of course we must try our best to play to our advantages. Jianglin was guessed by him, and his face did not change. Single fight is something that only the reckless men of Shushan will insist on. Who are the companions? Wei Dongliu asked for confirmation. Wen Yang, the judge of the Invaluable, was dealt with by fellow Daoist Wei last time. Jianglin said with a smile, in addition, there are Gilai of the Shudao and Longqi of the Donghuangdu, both of whom are easy to talk to. Easy to talk to? Wei Dongliu immediately understood that it meant that he had a bad attitude. No problem. He said calmly, one more or one less, it doesn't matter. Jianglin was a little surprised and muttered in his heart. Although fellow Daoist Wei doesn't like socializing, he is very arrogant. No, from all the usual signs, this guy is probably confident in his strength and really doesn't care. It's good, Wen Yang is not easy to fall into the trap, but Gilai will get angry once provoked, so it's just right to use that young man to test the strength of fellow Daoist Wei. In that case, fellow Daoist Wei, please come with me. She said with a smile, let's rush to southern Xinjiang first, and then meet up with the three fellow Daoists. Wei Dongliu called Yuo Jin and Wang Jun and said, I have to go out for business these days. You can practice here on your own. No visitors will be received. If someone comes without notice, activate the sect protection formation. Wang Jun, have you memorized the formation formula I taught you before? Master, I have memorized it. Wang Jun said obediently. Jianglin listened at the side, curious in his heart. A sect protection formation. If it is really a formation of that level, it must be set up by a professional cultivator who studies formations. It is not something that amateurs can handle. Could it be that he was just being mysterious and calling a small formation a big formation? Wei Dongliu naturally would not explain to her. As for Yuo Jin and Wang Jun, they were limited by their vision and could not see the exquisiteness and complexity of the 9 bends of the Yellow River formation, so they just agreed honestly. After leaving Shipping Mountain, Jianglin finally found an opportunity and asked casually, is the sect protection formation of fellow Daoist Wei reliable? If not, it's okay to let the 2 disciples stay in my behind palace temporarily. No need. Wei Dongliu waved his hand and said. Jianglin couldn't see his attitude, and seeing that he was unwilling to say more, he could only mutter in his heart, and the synchronization value of the mysterious personality increased sharply. The 2 flew south on swords and arrived at Dali City in southern Xinjiang. Probably because the day when the miasma of the 10,000 mountains would dissipate was approaching, there were many more cultivators in the city. Some of them carried sword boxes openly, and they knew at a glance that they were Shushan sword immortals. Some had tattoos on their faces, manipulated snakes and poisons, and they didn't look like famous and upright sects. The two sides maintained a very tacit peace, and they didn't interfere with each other. It was not because they couldn't confirm their identities, but because there was no dispute over interests for the time being, so there was no need for conflict. Wei Dongliu followed Jianglin to a restaurant in the city. When he went up to the second floor, he saw En Yang and two cultivators sitting together drinking. Wen Yang was still dressed extremely gorgeously, with gorgeous and complicated clothes, and her long hair fixed with a hairpin. As long as she didn't speak, she would be a perfect beauty. The other two monks were an old man and a child. The old man was dressed as a foreign monk, with a bald head, no scars on his forehead, large earlobes, and earrings, looking around fiercely. The child was dressed as a girl, with her hair combed into two pigtails, and an innocent expression. However, how could you be a good person to sit at the same table with Wen Yang and the foreign monk? Jianglin went over to greet them with a smile, and introduced them to everyone, saying, "This is Wei Dongliu, a fellow monk from the Fanxing Do. He is very powerful. I can guarantee that he will join us and act together this time. Fellow monk Wei is indeed trustworthy." Wen Yang pinched the wine glass with his slender fingers and said lazily. The two people guaranteed at the same time, and the old monk and the girl looked over. It's just that the old monk's eyes were full of hostility, while the girl was just looking at him curiously, at least on the surface. Chapter 224 Go, Golden Silkworm Gear with 100 Poisons. After everyone introduced themselves to each other, they gathered at a table and drank. The old monk was called Gilai, a mixed Han and Tibetan, a monk of the Shirdaofu level. The girl called herself Longxiaoqi, a native of Dali, an outer disciple of the Donghuangdo, and also a monk of the Watfu level. Wei Dongliu looked around and saw that the table was full of old men, children, beauties, and hermaphrodites, but he was the only serious monk. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Is this a weird meeting? Gilai thought he was laughing at something, and immediately narrowed his eyes and said, "Doorway, Doorwen and Doyojing are so respectful of you, which makes this old monk a little curious. I wonder if it's convenient for me to learn from you. How does Doyogi plan to learn from you?" Wei Dongliu said with a smile. Gilai didn't answer, but curled up his middle finger, and suddenly a sword energy shot out, rushing straight to Wei Dongliu's face. Facing this vicious and ruthless sneak attack, Wei Dongliu remained calm, sitting upright and drinking, and a golden light blocked the sword energy. Looking closely, it was a golden beetle, which caught the sword energy with its mouth parts and chewed it into pieces in just one blow. Golden Silkworm Gear 100 Poisons. Wen Yang was shocked. Golden Silkworm Gear 100 Poisons. Jianglin was overjoyed. Gilai also recognized the name of this Golden Silkworm Gear. His pupils shrank slightly, and his legs suddenly kicked the ground. He retreated and raised his hands at the same time, and shot out two more sword energies, all of which shot directly into Wei Dongliu's eyes. This move used offensive instead of defensive, blocking Wei Dongliu from choosing defensive so as to earn a chance to survive. Choosing to go straight to the opponent's eyes is also to provoke the opponent's subconscious tension, forming a stronger sense of fear and oppression. However, Wei Dongliu just smiled slightly, not afraid at all. Two more golden lights shot out from his robe sleeves, and they inserted from the left and right like lightning to block the two sword energies. They turned out to be two poisonous golden silkworms. As for the first one that flew out, it made a buzzing sound and suddenly pounced on Gilai's head. "Doya, calm down," Wen Yang shouted hurriedly. After a flash of lightning, the scene calmed down again. Gilai raised his empty hands and kept retreating, but he didn't dare to move a step. A certain poisonous golden silkworm had already hugged his entire face, and its sharp and huge teeth were clicking, as if it could bite him at any time. Wei Dongliu just sat there leisurely, with a leisurely expression, and cast his eyes on Wen Yang. "Awesome," Longxiaoqi suddenly said. Her seemingly silly and cute remarks instantly eased the originally tense atmosphere, so Wen Yang smiled again, tried to smooth things over and asked, "Fellow Daoist Gu, have you now experienced the magical powers of fellow Daoist Wei?" "Yes. Yes." Gilai, the old foreign monk, was also a bachelor. His huge bald head had already been gleaming with sweat. He hurriedly surrendered and said, "Wei Dongliu has great magical powers. From now on, I, Gu, am willing to be a pawn for fellow Daoist Wei. What qualifications do you have to be able to be my pawn?" Wei Dongliu smiled. "Doyo Wei," Jianglin said with a smile, "don't underestimate this old thief Gu. In terms of the severity of the killing, the internal fighting in Gerudo is more brutal than that in Shushan. The first combat power below the Golden Core is called King Kong, but it is a high-risk title, changing every year, often dying suddenly, and rarely re-elected. This old thief looks fierce and reckless, but in fact he is extremely cunning. He has been re-elected as King Kong in the Foundation establishment realm for 3 years, and has not been killed by his junior brothers and sisters. He must have real skills. In a few words, she explained Gilai's ability and background clearly, so that Wei Donliu also understood. Gil doesn't have any ability. Gilai said with a stiff face, it's just that I am willing to admit defeat when I meet a master. If Wei is still not satisfied, I will kowtow to you a few more times. You must call yourself poor monk. Long Xiaki said softly beside him. Gilai ignored her and was about to bend over to kowtow, but he saw his face loosen, and the 300 poisonous golden silkworms had already drilled back into Wei Donliu's sleeves. You don't have to kowtow. Why should a cultivator care about worldly etiquette? Wei Dongliu put his hands in his sleeves and said lightly, do something for me later, and this time it will be revealed. No problem. Gilai stood up and brushed the dust off his knees, then I owe you a favor. He sat down at the table again, as if nothing had happened just now, and told a few jokes, which made Jiangmonu giggle, and the atmosphere became harmonious again. Everyone continued to drink and laugh, but they all had their own evil intentions and didn't mention it on their faces. The gold and silkworm Gu, a vicious creature that had been lost for nearly 10,000 years, suddenly appeared. Everyone needed some time to digest it and evaluate the impact of this incident. Jianglin was naturally overjoyed, because she had long suspected that Wei Donliu was hiding his strength. For example, the immunity to the heavenly demon wonderful sound method, the ability to cover the 10,000 ghosts evil sword, and the unknown depth of the formation attainment, etc. But those are all false. In the final analysis, the key criterion for judging the strength of the demon sect monks is to see whether he has the ability to kill others directly. The appearance of the 100 poisons gold and silkworm gear finally added a strong stroke to the blank of Wei Laozui's combat power. Wen Yang was mixed with joy and sorrow. He was happy that this strong man was not only known to him, but also had dealings with him and made friends with him. He was worried that the 100 poisons gold and silkworm gear was something that the beast taming duo had been seeking for many years, just like the 10,000 ghosts evil sword to the Ying Ghost duo. In addition to its own strong strength, it also has a special historical significance. After all, Long Xiaki is also my friend for many years. If she wants to make a move or even rob her, should I help Wei Dongliu stalk her, or help Wei Dongliu kill her? Gilai's eyes turned for a long time. Although he was joking, he was a little depressed in his heart and used drinking to cover up his emotions. Only Long Xiaki always maintained a dazed posture like wandering in the world, and did not cast any glance at the 100 poisons gold and silkworm Gu. Seeing her sitting there without any reaction, Wen Yang thought that the Donghuan duo had lost its ambition long ago and was not going to inherit the mantle of the beast taming duo, so he smiled and said, "This action, Duo Wen," Jianglin suddenly said, "be careful of ears on the other side of the wall. This restaurant has been booked by me, and there are ghost soldiers deployed at all 4 corners. It is impossible for anyone to sneak in." Wen Yang smiled slightly, his eyes were full of charm. "Be careful." Which Jiang waved her rope sleeves, and several more demons flew out, flying in all directions, and disappeared into the wall in a moment. "Is this okay?" Wen Yang didn't care at all, and just continued, "This action is the Donghuan duo asking for support from the other 5 duos. Therefore, if we want to join the hunt, we need Duoist Long to lead and guarantee us." "That's right." Jianglin nodded and said, "Although the miasma in the 100,000 mountains is about to dissipate, there are still many monsters and dangers. We still need a guide who is familiar with the terrain to lead the way for us." Wei Dongliu listened indifferently, knowing that the two were explaining the importance of Long Xiaotli to him, so he just nodded slightly. Seeing that he didn't object, Wen Yang smiled and said, "There are still a few days left, so we will first get to know Duoist Long about the basic information about the 100,000 mountains." Chapter 225. Oh, interesting human beings. It will probably take some time for the miasma in the Shouwan Mountains to completely dissipate. Therefore, Long Xiaoqi took everyone back to the Donghuan faction station first. The 5 people left Dali City and continued to fly deep into the northwest. Soon they saw the clouds in the distance turning crimson, which was softer than the color of the rosy clouds, enchanting and gorgeous, and dazzling. That was the peach blossom miasma that spread throughout the Shouwan Mountains. Speaking of miasma, Wei Dongliu remembered Luo Yan's original sword Peach Blossom, which was said to be forged by the eldest brother who collected miasma from southern Xinjiang. Unfortunately, at the bottom of the 5 Yuan cave, he was smashed to pieces by the ghost dragon in an instant to save himself. What a pity. When they came to the edge of the miasma, they heard Long Xiaoqi say, "Stay close to me, don't go too far, otherwise you will be inhaled and it will be difficult to save you." So the 4 of them approached Long Xiaoqi, and Jiangmona directly stuck to Wei Dongliu and said with a smile, "Doorway, stay close to me, otherwise it will be bad if you inhale the miasma." "I'll stay close to Xiaoqi." Wei Dongliu approached Long Xiaoqi calmly. Jianglin. She wanted to curse, but she was good at managing her emotions, so she showed a resentful expression. Wei Dongliu passed Jiangmona and came to Long Xiaoqi's side, only to see that the girl did not react at all, but just muttered something in her mouth, and cast a few spells in front of her, so the peach blossom miasma slowly dissipated, revealing a narrow passage. "It's at most this wide," she whispered to everyone. "So that's how it is." Wen Yang clapped his hands and said, "It's enough for a few people to pass through, but it's not enough to explore the 100,000 mountains. That's why we have to wait for the miasma to dissipate." Jianglin echoed. Wei Dongliu didn't say anything, just stared at Long Xiaoqi's back and asked Kunlun Mirror, "A Jin, is she?" "Yes." Kunlun Mirror replied. "Do you think I have a connection with the Dragon Clan?" Wei Dongliu said strangely, "Ling Yunpo, Qiu Cheng Tian, Luo Yan, and now it's me, all have dealt with the Dragon Clan. The Dragon Clan is the ancestor of all the monsters." Kingping Sword said, "Snake body, deer horns, cow ears, sheep whiskers, eagle claws, fish scales, all kinds of monsters in the world, their bloodline source begins here. You always deal with the Dragon Clan, that's because each of your role identities has reached a relatively high level in the world of cultivation." Wei Dongliu thought about it carefully and had to say that it was true. Qiu Cheng Tian, Ling Yunpo, and Luo Yan correspond to Kunlun Tai King Sect, Shuanshan King Sect, and Pengliu King Temple respectively. The 3 pure ones of the Orthodox sect are already the 3 giants in the world of cultivation. In addition, the 3 characters are all doing well in the sect, so it is not surprising that they can come into contact with the Dragon Clan. Even Wei Dongliu, with his identity, is dealing with many new strong men in the demon sect. Jianglin, Wen Yang, and Gilai, which one is the most fuel-saving lamp in his own sect? It turns out that my ability is too outstanding. I didn't go to find that Dragon Clan on purpose, but the Dragon Clan rushed towards me enthusiastically like moths to a flame. Yes. Kunlun Mirror said with a smile, "Last time, they were chased by the dragons and fled everywhere. If I hadn't helped to teleport away the roadblocks, they would have almost died in the underwater cave." "Shut up, Broken Mirror." Wei Dongliu said shamelessly, "The fate with the enemy is also a kind of fate. Why don't you say that being able to meet an enemy of the level of Gailong is the best proof of my outstanding ability?" "Indeed." Kingping Sword also smiled, "The key is that he really escaped from the opponent. If it were other normal waffle level cultivators, it would be impossible to do this." Kunlun Mirror wanted to emphasize again that I was the one who escaped, but after thinking about it, he knew that no matter how much he boasted about his achievements, he would only get a few broken mirrors, so he simply kept silent and sulked. After walking in the 10,000 mountains for 3 days and 3 nights, everyone arrived at the East Emperor's residence Yulong Mountain. I saw that the vegetation in front was gradually sparse, and it was replaced by endless snow-capped mountains, which made Wei Dongliu feel like returning to Kunlun for a while. However, there are almost no trees in the Kunlun Mountains. It is either snow or bare rocks, with some low shrubs at most. The climate on the Yulong mountainside is much milder. The high altitude is a snow mountain, and the lower part is a meadow. The lower part is a cold coniferous forest. At the foot of the mountain, it becomes a temperate broad-leaved forest. There are also many glacial lakes and unfrozen lakes in between. The landscape level can be said to be extremely clear. As the temperature drops near the foot of the mountain, the peach blossom miasma also fades. Everyone simply flew up the flying sword and followed Long Xiaoqi all the way up the mountain. After flying over several mountain tops, they saw the magnificent Donghuan Palace, standing on the highest peak of Yulong Snow Mountain. Donghuan Palace, known as the Demon Palace in ancient times, is a prehistoric relic comparable to the Demon Locking Tower in Shushan. However, according to records, the functions of the two are different. The former is a frontline military base against the Demon Clan, while the latter is a prison cell for holding Demon Clan captives. However, after the subsequent war between Nen and Jie Zhao was defeated and disintegrated, and the demon palace was almost in decline and deserted, and even suffered multiple lootings, and it had long lost its former glory. In the heyday of the beast-taming sect, the monks of the demon sect tried to repair the internal functions of the demon palace, but they were suppressed by Shushan for many years, and their sphere of influence did not extend beyond the southern border. They were completely powerless in terms of resources and manpower. Later, the beast-taming sect suddenly declined and was occupied by the East Emperor sect. This demon palace left by the ancient human race was also changed into the incongruous East Emperor palace, which was a pity for the entire cultivation world. Well, thinking about the rumor that the East Emperor sect has actually been infiltrated by the demon race a long time ago, combined with Long Xiaqi's identity, it is a bit scary to think about it. Arriving at the gate of the East Emperor Palace, everyone saw a strange beast lying lazily in the square in front of the palace gate. The strange beast had 4 legs, a sturdy body, a sheep's head and wolf's hooves, and its fur was covered with colorful patterns. It was about 12 feet tall, and it was taking a nap with its head buried in its 2 front legs. "This is Lord Cunning," Long Xiaqi introduced calmly. "It has been lying here since the beginning of the beast-taming sect. It never responds to anyone and never responds to anyone calling it. Could it be because it sleeps soundly for many years?" Which Jin gasped curiously. She fully understood the point of not wanting to be disturbed when sleeping soundly. "No." Long Xiaqi shook his head and said, "It is actually pretending to sleep. It can hear us talking, but it just doesn't want to pay attention to us." Several times in the past, when the beast-taming sect was killed in front of the divine palace, Lord Cunning would open his eyes and get up, and then run to a place not affected by the war to continue taking a nap. Everyone. So this is not the guardian beast of the sect, but just a stray beast that refuses to leave here, right? Wei Dongliu looked at the Cunning who was dozing with his eyes closed, and curled his lips slightly, suddenly thinking of the stray cat that lingered at his doorstep in his previous life. Then, Cunning opened his eyes. Its eyes were as big as copper bells, and they were bright yellow. However, unlike the dragon, it did not carry the majesty and murderous aura of a superior predator. Instead, it had a sense of vicissitudes of life that was calm and had seen through the world. "What's your name?" Cunning asked slowly. Its voice was like a morning bell, with a deep tone, and a certain slowness that is unique to old people. It stared at Wei Dongliu and it was easy to imagine who it was asking. Everyone present fell silent, and their expressions were complicated for a while. And in Wei Dongliu's mind, the exclamation of Kunlun Mirror suddenly rang out. "The synchronization value is rising too fast. I won't report it. Just keep it in mind. I'm Wei Dongliu." He quickly calmed his thoughts and said with a bow, "Oh." Cunning leaned his head over and seemed to sniff at him. "I remember," it said in a flat voice, slowly buried its head in its forelimbs and closed its eyes. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.